This is the Ace Scott Spade. You're listening to Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling podcast. Listen to it. I dare you.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
This is Steve Bowtie Bryant here. Back in the 90s, I was a pro wrestling photographer for the South, and I released what might have been one of the original sets of indie trading cards. I ran across some of these original sets. They were up in Randall Fanning's attic all this time. PG-13 rookie card, Ricky Morton, George Weingroff as the Sheik, Chris Champion, Reno Riggins, Billy Montana, Gary Valiant, the Scorpion, the Medic, Rick Reynolds, Jeff Daniels, Mephisto and Dante, Ben Jordan, Steve Neely, Marcus Woodrow, Clinton Charisma, Little Farmer John. If you'd like an opportunity to get these cards, contact me now. You can get them for only $49.99. Contact me at Steve Bowtie Bryant at iCloud.com. Get your set now while supplies last.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome one more time to the Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling podcast, and I'm here as always with the one brother from the same father and mother, Jared, the Plastic Sheik Street. What's up, Sheik? How you doing today?
I'm good, brother. How about yourself?
Man, I'm good. Just, doing the thing as always. So, yeah, whatever that is.
Rocking and rolling.
Strutting and strolling, baby. Yeah.
Woo.
Yeah. Tell him, hoot. What's going on your way?
Not much. Just living life, working.
Living a la vida loca, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Every day goes by in a blur with kids in school, so it's just like you blink and it's
no doubt.
Day.
Yeah. Well, something cool's coming up for me, man. I'm actually going to interview Still Real Dave Wheels on Stories from Across the Street.
It's still real to me.
Yeah, I know, man. Yeah, still real for me. Yeah. So, yeah.
I mean, I can feel that. I can feel the passion in that.
Yeah. I mean, seriously, right? I mean, I'm going to find out all that stuff. Like, what was Terry Funk saying? When was he saying it? For saying what needed to be said, I want to know all that. So I'm going to ask him all the details.
Because everybody's just seen the clip of him at that moment, but nobody knows what came before it or anything like that, really. I mean, unless you were,
Yeah.
Everybody just see that clickbait thing, it was on Tosh.0 and some other stuff. So, that little clip has a lot of airtime, but the whole thing, I don't think many people know.
34 seconds at most, and
oh, yeah.
Yeah. And Tosh kind of took him to task and kind of made fun of him a little. I'm going to ask him kind of like seriously as a co-fan.
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah. See how it goes.
I mean, Tosh.0, the job, Daniel Tosh's job is a comedian. So
right.
He's, that's what he's about. But, it's as a wrestling fan, the realer it can feel, the better it is for us. So,
and it's still real to him, damn it. So, yeah. Well, speaking of still real to us, we've got an awesome show today, man. We got the Ace Scott Spade on the show today, man. So,
yeah, man, it's going to be good.
I mean, I'm very interested to learn some stuff from him and hear about his story. What's cool is not only has he worked in other territories, such as Chicago area up in, the Midwest and stuff, but also, he's a big fan of the Tennessee wrestling, just like we are. So, yeah. It'll be nice to hear his story and see where he's been. I know Rick, Shane, and so many other guys out there in Nashville just love him. So, it'll be exciting to hear what he has to say about them, I think,
Oh, absolutely. If he's got, if those guys, are big fans of him and like him, then, we know he's going to be a great guy.
Yeah, 3 people have told me to get him on the show: Shane, Rick, and Ben Jordan. And so that's like the 4 horsemen, or 3 of the 4 horsemen of the people that I need to hear it from. So,
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think it's going to be a lot of fun, man. Of course, we just had Chris Kern on, and very happy with that episode. I think a lot of people enjoyed that one. And, coming off Eron and Ben and, all the great interviews we've had. But I tell you what, that Chris one was a lot of fun too, man. So
absolutely, man. They just keep getting better and better and better, man. It's
Yeah, I agree. And, I'm excited for this one. So I say, let's go ahead and crank it up. You ready to talk to Scott Spade?
Absolutely. Let's do it, man.
All right. We'll be right back after these messages on Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling.
That's right, it's the talk of Middle Tennessee, the channel you love to hate and the channel you hate to love. It's Brian Turner from Brian Turner's VHS Rehab. And if you're looking for matches from Wolfie D to Jerry Lawler to Dusty Rhodes and the team that put a pimp before your eyes and a goatee between your thighs, Booty Call and Athena, go to lostwrestling.com. See, I made it easy for you. Brian Turner's VHS Rehab. Booyah.
Hey guys, this is Wolfie D from PG-13. Check out my podcast, Live and in Color with Wolfie D, every Monday at noon. We're talking Memphis, we're talking ECW, WCW, WWF, everywhere that I've been. We even have some great guests, some Hall of Famers on the show with us. Every Monday, Live and in Color with Wolfie D.
All right, we are back with Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling. And Jared, once again, we got an awesome guest who we haven't met before. And as always, I'm very excited to meet him. What about you, Jared? You ready for this one?
Man, I'm always ready for him. It's awesome to talk to these guys and get their stories.
All right, well, let's wait no longer. Ladies and gentlemen, the Ace, Scott Spade. What's up, Scott? Glad you're on the show, man.
Guys, thank you for having me. I've been looking forward to this for a long time.
Oh, brother.
Glad somebody looks forward to it. No, I'm just kidding.
My own co-host doesn't even look forward to it.
No, that was talking about the guests.
Oh, yeah, sure, guests. I get it, yeah.
Yeah, I've listened to about 95% of your episodes, and they're awesome. I love listening to them. You guys do a great job.
Dude, Scott, that means a lot, man. That really does. That you listen to one makes me happy. So listening to 95% of them, sometime down the future, just close the rest of that 5% gap there. And we'll,
for sure.
Well, we start every episode with the number one question, the Sheik's favorite question. He always starts it off on every show, kind of sets the tone. Sheik, take it away.
All right, Scott. So, it's always my question that lets us get to know you, lets the listener get to know you, and shows us your influences of wrestling. Can you give me a Mount Rushmore, your top 4 or 5 guys in wrestling history?
That's going to be hard to narrow down, but the first one.
If you had to take 6, it's fine too.
Yeah. First right away is the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing. Hulk Hogan.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he was the biggest name when I, was a little kid watching wrestling, and he's the guy that got me interested in probably 87-ish. Him and Andre. That's when I started watching, when he had his feud with Andre. So I'm 42, so if that you can date myself there, so you can tell me the era that I grew up in. So
same era as us, man.
The good era.
After Hulk is probably Jake the Snake Roberts.
Ooh, nice.
Love it, man.
I love his wrestling style. He is just such the master of psychology. And that's what I kind of like to teach the kids that I train too about it. It's all about psychology. It's not the flipping and flopping junk. It's about why you do it, when, why, where, and that's all got to make sense. And he's the master at that. And promos too. He's probably my biggest influence on promos.
Yeah.
Not yelling and screaming. It's you talk with your eyes, really serious. And, you're going to listen to somebody like that versus somebody screaming their head off,
Oh, totally.
Next would probably be, I know we talked about this earlier too, a couple of weeks ago, Terry Funk.
Oh, man. Yeah.
There's a guy that has done everything from the golden era, of the mid 60s all the way up until the 20-teens. And people have asked me, if you could have anybody's career in wrestling, I would pick his because he's seen it all and done it all for over 50 years.
Oh, man. I mean, the Funker, no question. One of the best, one of the most underrated. Even though he's rated very highly, I still think he's underrated. You know
Absolutely. What I mean? I'm so glad I got to meet him at the Cauliflower. I think it was in 2010, 2011, something there. So I got my picture up on the wall here in my office here. So he's a very, very special. And him passing away a little while ago, that was probably the hardest wrestler death that I've ever had to deal with. That one hit me really, really hard.
Yeah, for sure. Who you got next?
Number 4, in my opinion, I think is the greatest world champion of all time, and that's Harley Race.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah.
I love how that guy moves. I love he just floats around. He dances around. He makes everything look so easy.
Yeah.
The toughest man that I think has ever lived and could get a great match out of anybody.
Gotta be. Yeah. That is it. I mean, dude, Harley Race, you're right. I think arguably one of the greatest, if not the greatest heavyweight champion of all time. No question about it. And he pulled a gun on your favorite, you know?
It's like, yeah. He came before Ric Flair. It's a little bit earlier, era, but I don't know if that's my thing. But Flair had the thing where he did the same thing every match to a point. Harley was always different. I don't know. I always favored Harley.
I understand. I mean, do you know Flair took that from Ray Stevens, where he went to a Ray Stevens match and he didn't do the flip over the rope that one match, and he was like, "Why didn't you do that?" And he was like, "Well, I don't do it every match." And he's like, "Okay." And I think that made Flair's decision that he was going to do that every match. So, but it makes sense. So.
Yeah, that's a great guy to learn from too. That's one of the most underrated lost names I think in the history of wrestling too, is Ray Stevens.
Amen. Yeah.
And there's just not enough, from what I understand, there's just not enough good video out there of him.
Because there's not really any video of San Francisco work with him and Pat.
Yeah.
They're in the 60s and 70s and stuff. And then him and Bockwinkel, too, were amazing tag team.
I know. It's like an incredible tag team to another. It's almost like the Midnight Express, man, if you think about it.
Yes.
Bobby traded partners, but they were both incredible, Yes,
they were. Yeah, if I give honorable mention number 5 and number 6, I would do Stan Hansen and Bruiser Brody.
Wow. Yeah.
I love those guys. They're just unbelievable. How they could just 300-pounders that could just go and go and go. And they made you believe.
Yeah. Yeah. I see a theme on your list, man. It's like you liked Hulk Hogan when you were a kid, and then it went bad guy from there. I love it. Yeah.
I'm super old. I'm 42, like I said, but instead of being born in 81, I wish I was born in 51. And I would have been around in that time when I like all that. I like the 60s, 70s, and really early 80s era. And I've always had that old school mentality.
Yeah. My mentor, Kenny Still, he's passed on now. He grew up. He was 10 years older than me. So he saw all the guys in the 70s like Harley and like Blackjack Mulligan and those guys where it's like the, Don Jardine, and those guys where it's the great guys, the spoiler, but, and then of course the Funker too, which, man, I mean, Terry Funk was such a chameleon. I don't want to get back on him, but he was just such a chameleon. He could do so much, man.
Yes, he could do any style of any era. And he just like you said, he could form to any era of wrestling, and he did it great, better than anybody.
He did. Amen. Well, hey, I think that's it. Yeah. It was a great show. Thanks, Scott. That was all we needed. No, I mean,
great list, man.
Yeah, it was a great list. So, we always kind of, go a little different direction here now. So we've talked about the guys that really influenced you, but now we're going to talk about the man himself, our guest, Scott Spade. Once again, thank you for being on the show. We always like to start with this question after the Mount Rushmore, and that is your younger days, man. Now, again, you're from a different area from 90% of our most recent guests. So this is exciting for us because we're going to learn about a new territory that we haven't heard about as much other than our conversation with Rick Reynolds. So your younger days, brother, where were you born? What high school did you go to? Tell us a little bit about that.
All right. Yeah, I'm from just outside Chicago. I grew up in Lombard, Illinois, which is probably half an hour west of Chicago. Grew up there first 35 years of my life. So I went to Lombard East High School, class of 99. And
class of 99, I hear you there, 99. Brother.
Yep, last one of the century.
Yeah, I was in that. I was
25 years already. It's crazy.
Yeah,
I know, man.
Yeah, my goal was to, right out of high school, to find somewhere to wrestle. I wanted to start wrestling when I was 18. But there wasn't really too many, I guess you could say, openly advertised schools around here.
Yeah.
And I remember every now and then on Raw, there would be a commercial, maybe 30 seconds real quick about a school. One was for Windy City Wrestling and one was for a place called, I think, the Steel Domain, it was called. And I remember trying to work up the guts to call the phone number, I was kind of scared to call because I didn't know if they were going to call me back. And then it's like, okay, what do I do from there? So I wasn't sure. And then I started to go into some local shows to a company called PCW. They ran in closer to Chicago, and I was talking to the guy that ran the show for a couple of years or so. never got a really straight answer about what they were going to do or when they're going to train guys. And then where I worked, there was a company that did shows in the town next to it and a town maybe 15 minutes north of there. And a place I used to eat lunch all the time. They had a flyer up in the window. I'm like, oh, it's right here. I'll go check it out one day. And it was probably 2 weeks later. So I went there, and it was a place called Classic Championship Wrestling, CCW. And this was in June, I think, of 2004. It was the first time I went to a show. And from the very first match, I'm like, okay, the atmosphere is different. How they put a show on is different. This is where I go to train. And I saw the guys have a lot better work style than the other company did. And I talked to the owner after the match, and he kind of set me up on what they call a fantasy camp, which is it's like a tryout to see if you can handle it or if you want to pursue it further, if you like enough to want to seriously consider, signing up to do it. Yeah. So I had a concert the day before. Usually it was a 2-day thing. And I did the whole fantasy camp on Sunday instead of Saturday and Sunday. It was probably 4 hours of different things, the regular rope bumps and simple little things like that. But I was picking it up so quick. He had me doing all the basic bumps as well as just the general, bringing a fan in and doing things like that. So, and it was like $125 or something like that for the fantasy camp. And if you signed up, you had to do like $500 down, but like that money would go towards your total training payment, I guess, your training fee, I guess you could say. But I gave him all the money the day I walked in there. Yeah. And he's like, don't you want to try it first? I'm like, no, I am going to do this. Here's all the money. Sure you don't want to try? I said, no, you take this and I'm going to go get ready. So I gave him the money and I walked out of the room and started getting changed. So it wasn't a matter of if I could do it, I was going to do it no matter what.
Right. The bug bit you and then it buried itself into your body, basically.
Oh, yeah. So, I was born with the bug, for sure.
Now, let me slow you down just a second. You said something there quickly that I want to touch on. You said you had a concert before and then you did the full day of. So obviously, Ace of Spades, Scott Spade. Obviously, there's a little bit of a hard rock, heavy metal, punk rock element to your style. Talk about that before, getting into wrestling. I mean, obviously, you've probably been a music fan all your life as well.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I grew up on, classic rock. My mom was really into music. So, I love, the classic era, Scorpions, AC/DC, all that kind of stuff. But then when I found Metallica, then it started getting heavier. Then it went to Slayer. And then my all-time favorite band is Motorhead.
Oh, I can tell.
That's where the name comes from. And if there was anybody that was like a living god, Lemmy, the singer of Motorhead, he is my god.
Yeah.
I love his lifestyle, his image, and just the carefree, I don't give a shit about anything. I'm going to do your thing, you do my thing, and everybody's happy, and, all that kind of stuff. And he's just such a massive influence on not just my gimmick, but just, everyday life. But I took my name and my gimmick and my look and everything about me kind of from that. I've always been a poker player, a card player, gambler kind of a guy. So it kind of mixed into that same thing. And I used to come out to Ace of Spades song for years and years before that. So that's where my name came from. Scott is my first name, shoot, and then I chose Spade for the Ace of Spades. So
I love that, man. I love that. And Ozzy's Ozzy, I recently heard Ozzy talking about Lemmy, and they were good buddies. And he wrote a lot of songs for Ozzy and stuff. And Ozzy wanted to portray one thing, as a lot of people think of, because Lemmy's so many things. First of all, I'm a bass player, but he plays the bass like a guitar. And so, I've been in bands and stuff, and then Motorhead, of course, has been an influence on me just as a bass player. But when it comes down to it, he's much more than that. He's so well read. He's so intelligent. He's political. I mean, he can talk about anything. And the conversation I heard with Ozzy recently was talking about mostly that, how, you think of him as this party and rock star, and he is, and he was, but he also had so much more depth to him that a lot of guys maybe didn't know,
Oh, yeah. So, he was a very, very smart guy. Yeah. Like you said, very well read, but he always had his Jack and his pack of Marlboros every day, his poker machine in the Rainbow Bar next to his house and stuff like that. But nobody has ever played a bass like him, and nobody will play it since. And I've seen them like 10 times.
Yeah, I've tried to imitate his playing, and it's impossible.
No way. Yeah. It's so hard. It's so simple, but it's so one of a kind.
It really is. It's the level of distortion. He plays a bass through a guitar amp. I mean, he really is just such an original. And he left the bottom end to the guitar, which was an intelligent thing to do for a heavy band, because then a lot of bass players, as a bass player myself, and I don't want to get off on this, but you try to fill in that bottom end, and that's important. And I think that's my style. But when it came to Lemmy, he actually took the higher end, and it just made Motorhead sound, man. Really did.
Yeah, and there is no band that has ever been louder, man. He would crank it up. He would ask about halfway through the show, "Is it loud enough?" And then he'd tell people to turn it up higher.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing them like on a Saturday night in Milwaukee and then a Sunday night in Chicago, 2 nights in a row, and I couldn't hear for 3 days.
I bet.
It's so loud. But that's how I want it. I want it loud. That's the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah, when you walk out of the concert, you're like, did a bomb just go off?
Oh, yeah.
Seriously,
yeah, your ears are ringing, your head's kind of foggy. That was awesome.
Yeah. Well, hey, dude, now that you're talking Lemmy and wrestling, the guys you've mentioned, this is going to be a great conversation. So anyway, well, hey, let's pivot back to wrestling here. Jared, go ahead and ask the man the question here.
All right, tell us about your first match in the business.
My break-in date was August 22nd of 2004, and I was told by my trainers, Jimmy Blaze was the guy that broke me in. The other owner of the company was a guy named Dave Storm. He would kind of come and go with his personal issues that he had at the time. So Jimmy Blaze is my original, very first trainer. He started in Windy City, January of 1990, I think he started.
Yeah.
So they told me after about a month and a half of training, they said I was ready for my first match.
Wow.
It's like, I've said it before. I want to come across as like a conceited thing, but it's like I was ready before I was ready.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Yeah.
It does,
I watched it as a fan.
Yeah.
Half the time, and the other half, I was like studying it as I was watching it, trying to learn how they did things.
Yeah.
I just needed to go somewhere to get trained properly to do it.
Right.
So I was like ready before I was ready, if that makes sense.
You're kind of a natural at it.
Yeah.
Sounds like.
Yeah. So their big show of the year is called Wrestle Rage. CCW was the company at the time. It's now POW. Since Jimmy's the sole owner, he changed the name. And it was Wrestle Rage 2 November 13th of 2004.
Very cool.
And I wrestled a guy called Next Generation Patriot.
Yeah, I saw that. Now, okay, that was interesting. The Next Generation Patriot. I've heard of the Dark Patriot, of course, Doug Gilbert. I've heard of the Patriot himself, Del Wilkes, or whoever else runs that gimmick now, but the Next Generation Patriot. So that was just an evolution of the gimmick, I'd assume.
Well, it kind of comes from his uncle. His uncle was a guy named Rick Paradise, and he did a American Made was his nickname. So he did a patriotic, almost like a hacksaw with carrying the flag around and stuff like that.
Okay, very cool.
That was his nephew, so that's how they got the Next Generation Patriot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Justin James is his name, and it was my very first match. We were I didn't even know I was going to have a match that night. All I knew is that my debut was going to be in a battle royal, and they used to actually verbally read the lineup.
Okay.
Match 1, so and so here, so and so there, and they said match 2, Spade out first, and I'm like, what? And the guy's just smiling and looking at me, and he nods his head. I'm like, oh my God. And I didn't know if that was better or if it was worse. I think it was probably better, because if I knew I had a match, I'd probably be, super nervous about it. But if I got put on the spot with a half an hour to go, I'd have to just, put up and shut up and get it over with.
Yeah.
So it's probably better that it was done that way as a surprise versus, thinking about it for a month or so.
Yeah, for sure. Now, what was the culture like of that locker room when you started working? It
was amazing. We call it the original 5. The guys that started training the company. That Justin James, he started the year before, I think when he was 16. Okay. He was really young, and he was an amateur wrestler kind of half of the year, and then he did pro stuff when wrestling season was off.
Okay.
And then there was a guy named Kanoa who did a Hawaiian gimmick. I think he started in February of 2004, and then Rough Crossing and Chris Cairo, the other 2 guys that came before me in, I think it was March of 2004, and I started in August. Yeah. So those are the original 5 trainees of the company.
That's awesome.
And it was instant bond, especially with me and Ruff and Cairo. We hit it off right away, mostly because the music thing.
Yeah.
We were all into music and stuff, and we just hit it off really, really well. And training was rough. It wasn't like it was in the in the old days where it was, beat somebody up until, you don't want them to come back kind of thing.
Right.
But I almost wish it was that way because I love that training style, because that way you weed out the people that shouldn't be in. Because I'm super protective of the business and the secrets and everything about it. And if I had my own place, solely, I would kind of do it that way.
Oh, yeah.
I hold,
love it.
the secrets in such high regard, and, kayfabe. I'll protect it with my life. And I will openly admit that I'm that serious about, my passion for the way I think wrestling should be done, and the secrets, and the, honoring everybody that comes before you and all that kind of thing like that.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. So it looks like in 2005, from my research, you end up working for Universal Wrestling Enterprises and Eric Freedom in Michigan. Talk a little bit about, I guess, your journey from working in Chicago to getting that job and working there some too. Yeah,
Eric Freedom is a really good friend of mine. I think we're closer now than we ever have been. When I first started going to the shows, he and Forsaken were in a feud for quite a long time. And man, those guys were they stood apart from all the other guys on the show. They had such a heated feud, and everything they did every time was different, and they would brawl over the building, and it was unbelievable. So immediately right away, when I was going to the shows, Forsaken was my guy, because it was the dark, it was the evil, and I just loved, he was huge, and he was just unbelievable. He was a killer.
Yeah.
And manager Chris Danger is amazing too. Learned so much from those guys, and I will get into Rick later, but yeah, he's my mentor, and he taught me everything about psychology, and I know we'll get into it later, but Eric Freedom is the guy that's his company, UWE.
Yeah.
So he used to have a bunch of the trainees come up and do a bunch of shows there. So that's kind of how the connection was.
That's very cool. Yeah, because our interview with Rick, he was awesome. And again, I knew him and worked on some shows with him, and knew he's just a guy that carries such respect, So when he brings up all these names, Jimmy Blaze, Dave Storm, Eric Freedom, and then of course Scott Spade, it's just cool to kind of start to put some of these puzzle pieces together as far as how that works. So you go from Illinois to Michigan. Now, again, I know in the Tennessee region, there's no licensing. In Kentucky, there is a commission. It's kind of like the Gestapo a little bit in Kentucky. But is there stuff like that also up in Illinois? And I know there's not in Illinois, but is there that in Michigan? Is there a commission in Michigan at all?
No, there is no commissions in those states anymore. No.
Yeah, good deal.
Yeah, there's not many left. That's for sure.
Yeah, well, Virginia and Kentucky will, for some reason, hold on to the last one. I think they'll be.
Yeah, I got licenses, I think, for 2011 and 2012 for Kentucky, but I actually never ended up wrestling there.
Yeah, I worked there quite a bit, actually, and I didn't think I would at first. I was like, why did I get this? This is dumb. I worked one show. And then I ended up working for Burt in Illinois, in a little town in the middle of the court of the town. It was a small town just South Illinois, and it was just past Metropolis. And I remember working for Burt Prentice there, and it was just in the middle of the town, and I was like, there's not going to be anybody here. And all of a sudden, people just poured to this little spot, and there ended up probably being like 200-300 people there just in the middle of the town, man. It was cool.
That is cool.
Yeah.
I think the one thing that kind of hung me up on Kentucky too is that if there's a commission, there's no blood.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the color red, if you know.
Yeah. It means
like
green, right?
Said, red makes green.
Yeah, red makes green. That's the story.
I love it. I absolutely love to do it. Only do it when it makes sense, but I'm an addict. I love it.
Yeah, I co-host another podcast, Wolfie D, and Wolfie was kind of the juicer of the PG-13 tag team. And then when it comes down to it, we know that Hot Rod Biggs, one of our former guests, Chris Kern was talking about how he would juice just to juice sometimes. Yes. So,
I could if I didn't care so much about things making sense, but yeah, I could probably do that too.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, Hot Rod is the king of things making sense, but I think he's just a pretty juice happy guy. It's like if a hard way happens, he's cool with it. But,
I'm the same way. If it's a hard way, it's a bonus, and I'm happy. Yeah, if I get hurt or I get a busted lip or a busted eye or whatever, hey, I get free juice.
Yeah,
I like it too.
It's funny. I don't want to go into my stuff too much, but the only hard way I ever had, and was the only time I got color, was from Sam Shaw. He's now, what's his name in WWE? He's
Dexter Loomis.
Dexter Loomis, yeah. He does a Alabama Jam off the top rope and catches my lip. I placed my face in the wrong direction and caught every bit of it and busted my lip. It was great.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good shot from all the way up there. Yeah.
Yeah, coming by it honest though. Hard ways are fun. So
yes, they are.
Tell us about meeting like the Tennessee guys and just like your first thoughts and everything like that.
Oh my God. Tennessee to me is so sacred. because it's, Memphis has always been one of my favorite territories.
Oh, yeah.
And to me, Tennessee wrestling is my home away from home. It's my favorite place in the world to wrestle because it's like going back in time.
Yeah.
The fans care. You can get insane heat.
Still believe.
Oh, my God. It's so much fun. And that's the land of psychology. I tell people that's where I got my degree in psychology. It was from working in Tennessee.
Amen. They teach Shakespeare there,
And my hero, my mentor, the guy that I've always wanted to be like was Forsaken, Rick Reynolds.
Yeah, me too.
He taught me so much about everything. And he's one of those guys that he almost is like Andre the Giant.
Right. Yeah.
If he lets you in, be very proud that he did, because it's a very, very few select people that he does.
Yeah.
If he likes you, he will give you everything. And if he doesn't like you, you will know it, and you will know it fast.
You'll get all the other stuff.
I've seen quite a few things of times happen. And again, it's not that he has, a temper or what. It's all justified because he's standing up for what's right and what he believes in and protecting the business. Yeah. And I've always wanted to just be like him. I never wanted to go to WWE or WCW or whatever, because I think everything like after 1992, that's like my cut of fear, isn't any good. And I haven't watched it on TV since 2002.
I watch it in fast forward, but yeah, same thing, man.
I don't pay attention to anything. It's like I don't want to know anything, and I hate that word entertainment. To me, it's still a sport, and it means a lot to me.
It has to, man. It has to.
Yeah, so my actual second match that I've ever had was in Springfield, Tennessee.
Wow. Okay, now we got to hear about this.
Okay. So I had that first match at Wrestle Rage, and it was in Woodstock, Illinois. And then I guess in every Thanksgiving, starting the year before that, a group of the guys from my company up here will go down to Forsaken's to wrestle on Thanksgiving night, and then that Saturday also.
Huge night, yeah.
Yep. So it happened where Dave Storm and Rough Crossing and like another guy named Joey Chichi were going to go, but then Joey had something come up and he couldn't go, so Dave called me at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon on Wednesday, the day before Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And he said, hey, would you want to go to do this? And I said, yeah, give me a minute. Let me ask my boss. And he didn't care. So I'm like, I'm on my way. So I left right there, went home, cleaned up, got my bags, and they picked me up. And we headed right there down to there. And we stayed at Forsaken's house. I think he lived in Laverne at the time. And then, Thanksgiving night was Springfield, Tennessee for Mike Porter for NWA Main Event.
Oh man, that's the promotion I started working for. What year was that again, Scott?
The exact date is November 25th, 2004.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, about 7 years too early, but yeah, man, I worked for Porter too. But if Porter now, I would assume now, and I'm not asking specifics, but was there a payday involved for you?
Yeah, he's notorious for not paying.
Amen.
I remember doing a show a couple years later, actually in Nashville. And he didn't pay on that one, but I don't. It's been so long ago, I don't remember on those first two shows.
Was that paid
or not?
Was that on Trinity Lane at that church building that he ran?
I don't. That's the only time I ever wrestled in Springfield, so I'm not sure.
No, in Nashville. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. It was like a school gym or like a recreational gym kind of place.
Yeah.
Like a big open gym with basketball nets and stuff. I don't remember if it was the church part of it or not.
Yeah, it was a church fellowship hall. And I don't know how he ended up in that building. If it had been anybody else, like our buddy Kroll or somebody, I feel like that would have been a packed building. But Porter he was in the old Carney. He was one of the old last Carneys, man. Him and Bert were.
I never knew that he wrestled too until way later.
Yeah, he was a wrestler. He was actually the original Mephisto of Dante and Mephisto.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Which has great ties to Rick Reynolds. But again, not knocking, he's passed on now. He was a legitimate funeral director, and he also, did his own thing with the, deceased and stuff. And I'm not painting negative connotations on that, but maybe there are some. But he is notorious for horrible pay, but when you would travel, if you would travel, I mean, I got to manage Dutch Mantel against Jerry Lawler for Mike Porter and Bert. So he would pay when you went out of town, but when you were in town, he treated it like Memphis TV or something. So.
Yes, I think I remember hearing a reference to say it's something like TV. Oh, if I'm doing the show or whatever, you don't get paid. Like I said, I only remember that one show, and that one in Nashville, I wrestled Derek Neal.
Yeah, Derek's
He's gone on to better things here, and I haven't seen him since that match. So I haven't seen him in a long. I think that was 2011.
Yeah, Well,
it's been a long time since I've seen him.
Breaking news, Derek Neal is our very next guest, brother.
Is it really?
Yeah, that's hilarious. Derek's
cool.
great. Yeah, Derek's great. He's definitely one of those real dudes that loves it and cares about it like you do, man. So
yeah, I think he was in, I don't remember if a year or two after me, but he was really short hair, clean cut, and I see now he's got really long hair and he's got a bigger body. And yeah, he's looking good now.
A very big fan of Derek since the start, just a class act. And like I said, he reminds me, now that I've talked to you some, it reminds me a lot of you, how you care about it so much that you would, literally die for the business. So
I got a funny story too about that first match. It was the Thanksgiving night one. It was myself and Damien was my partner. So Rick still worked the Damien gimmick down there.
Yeah. Okay.
So I was scared to death.
Because Mike didn't like Forsaken. He, for some reason, wanted him to do the Damien. So I remember Rick saying he didn't like the Forsaken character. So, yeah.
Well, I mean, he was so well known as Damien down there, and he just started Forsaken when he came up by us.
Right.
So maybe to do something different or new. And that's when he did face paint. He didn't wear a mask up by us.
Right.
Forsaken was always face paint, and Damien was always a mask.
Yeah.
But just thinking like, oh, my God, if I screw up or do anything, this guy's going to kill me. Because I knew of his reputation and I just wanted to uphold, his name and not do anything stupid or whatever. So it was me and him against Dave Storm and Rough Crossing, and we go out there. And, before we went out, I remember standing the cool thing about that is they having separate heel and babyface entrances.
Yep, exactly.
That's not done up here. So
right.
It's just so cool to kind of be in the last era, I think, they got to experience that. And then actually having, separate locker rooms, too, is an amazing thing to experience, too.
It is, man. Yeah.
If I had my own thing, I would do that now, just to make sure these guys can just go out there and work. None of this planning crap.
Right.
Just go out there and do it.
Yeah.
So standing there before, go out there, show starts, I asked him, okay, what do you want me to do? Do you need me for anything? He just stands there with his arms crossed, just looking at me, doesn't say a word. I'm like, okay, I'm starting to sweat a little bit more. And I asked him maybe 2 or 3 times, and then the match before us was done. And I asked him again. I said, okay, please, can you tell me, just so I know something to do? And he's just standing there like a stone face, just looking at me through his mask and doesn't say a word. And then the music hits, and it's the Halloween theme. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to die. He's going to kill me. Like I better do something good, and not screw anything up. And we get out there and do our thing, and the match was the shits. I mean, it was my second match, but I was so scared and so nervous, being down there, and I didn't want to disappoint him. And he did the chain passing back and forth. We had the little dog chain, and then he'd choke the guy that he was working on, and then he'd pass it to me, and I'd put it in my singlet. And the one time where he got bumped down, I don't think it was for the hot tag. I think it was sometime in the heat where he cut somebody off, and he was asking for the chain. He's like, give me the chain. And I reached in my singlet, and it was gone. and I keep digging. I'm digging. He's like, give me the chain. Give me the chain. He started to yell. And I'm like, and then I hear him say, give me the goddamn chain. Like screamed it. I'm like, I don't have it. And then I'm looking all around, and it actually, when I bumped one time and rolled out in the comeback, it actually fell out of my singlet. And I looked down right off the apron. It was right there on the floor.
Oh, man.
So I saw it. I looked down there, I saw it, and I grabbed it, and I slid it, and I handed it to him. And by then, the whole kind of comeback was all screwed up and this and that. And I think he hit him with the chain and rolled him up, and we screwed him on that finish, and then just kind of got out of there. And he didn't really say anything to me in the back, because he knew I was like extremely upset with myself for screwing the whole thing up. And I was really hard on myself. I wanted everything perfect, even it was only my second match, but I didn't want to disappoint him because I looked up to him so much. And I was bummed. I didn't even really say anything the whole rest of the night. I don't even know if I said much the next day, because I was just thinking about, because I knew we had the rematch on Saturday, just to think about, okay, what am I going to do to fix this? That's the thing. How can I redeem myself?
Yeah.
So that next Saturday, it was same thing. It was Mike Porter was promoting at Freddie Morton's auction house.
Yep.
Which that's probably the place that I've wrestled more than any other place in Tennessee is in Columbia.
That's awesome.
That's my favorite place in the world. I love that place.
Yeah, they're the literal last place on earth. I mean, there's a couple others, but Columbia is one of the last places that wrestling is still real, damn it, Yeah,
absolutely. And that place is such a hot draw for wrestling. It's always has been. There's been a lot of buildings in the area, too, that run shows, and there's no bigger name, I think, in Columbia than my other good buddy, Shane Morton.
Oh, love him. Yeah.
He's treated like a god. And he's the greatest babyface I have ever been in the ring with.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hands down.
Yeah.
I've never seen anybody get the sympathy from a crowd, and man, can he color too? Oh my God. I've seen him head to toe on numerous occasions.
I remember the first time I saw him, I was like, bro, are you okay? And he's like, what? I'm fine. And I'm like, and I'm looking at a face that looks like, Carrot from the Steve.
Oh, yeah.
Movie, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, he was a bleeder.
Myself that second night, everything went great. The crowd was into it. And then after that, I could smile again. And Rick was like, oh, yeah, you fixed everything you wanted to. You did good out there. And he never gave me a hard time, never did nothing like that, never yelled at me, like that. But because I think he saw that I was really hard on myself and stuff like that. And then ever since then, he really took me under his wing. And whenever he would come up to the promotion up here, he would stay with me. So I'd pick him up from the airport. We play golf in the morning on Saturday morning, and then we go to the show, and then, I'd drop him off at the airport. So it was all weekend long with him. And I think that's another thing that's missing these days from the young kids is the car rides.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I was just about to ask you that. Tell us about some of those, especially going to Tennessee, coming back. I would love to hear.
Just him being up here with me, going to the shows up here. It's like there's so much knowledge that is passed on in the car.
Yeah. Yeah.
These kids in the last, like I said, I think might be the last, class that came in that got trained, that got to experience that, where they got to do the car rides with the older guys. And it's like you want to, think of ideas of what you want to do, before you get there. And then, you get analyzed by a vet after the show. You should have did this here. You should have did this here. Why'd you do that? You could have did this. So, that's where you really, really learn, is in the car with an older guy. And a lot of guys used to break in the old days, a brand new guy would get put in a tag team with a veteran wrestler.
Yeah.
And that's like the best way to learn, because you're actually out there in the ring and he's teaching you on the job.
Yeah. But those car rides are so important. I remember my few car rides that I would take with certain guys. Like, I just am so appreciative of those times. I know so much, not like you said, so much knowledge is gained just for the young guys in those car rides. Yes. And that's part of the deal, man. That's getting those car rides and just shutting up and listening, but also asking questions when it's time,
Yes.
And, yeah. So just give me one thing that maybe you really learned from Rick. I mean, I know there's millions, but one thing that in those car rides, one thing that you really sticks with you that was like, man, that is part of it for sure.
Always kind of carry yourself in a certain way where, I don't want to say make people respect you, but always carry yourself in a way where they don't even think about messing with you.
Yeah.
Or, carrying yourself in a certain way where you don't want anybody to screw around with you. Never let anybody take advantage of you. He used to say a lot of stuff like that, if this happens or this happens, do this or that, to protect yourself. If you have to do this, or, don't put yourself in a situation where something can go wrong, or, just what to do, when and why and where and how, certain things in the match, psychology stuff wise. He used to show me, him and Chris Danger were an amazing manager wrestler combination. He used to show me how he would give hand signals to Chris when they would pass the chain back and forth, or, cross his fingers on his leg, to know when his time to come up and stuff. And just their chemistry was absolutely phenomenal. Whether they used the dog chain, they used like the metal wire hanger, pass it back and forth and choke him with it and then pass it back out, or whether it was tape or a rope or something. Those two guys were just phenomenal together. Really, really good together.
Yeah. So tell me something that you learned from working Shane Morton.
Oh my God, how to be a babyface.
Yeah,
that guy, and I think it's in the Morton blood.
Yeah,
if you're Morton, you will be a wrestler.
Yeah,
from Ricky to his son Cody, Jerry Lynn. I mean, everybody. They are so good, and they are the nicest people in the world. I love Shane to death and his whole family. They are such good people.
Amen. They really are.
He's done so much for me with all the different places that he's ran and booked. Because when I was working the Grand Slam building too, that's a pretty famous building down there too. I remember doing the separate locker rooms there, and he was booking and doing all this stuff, and he put me over one of my other really, really good buddies, Buzzed Up.
Yeah, Jason.
And him, and I'm very close to him. He's a great guy. He put me over for their heavyweight title on the Thursday, and then he had me drop it back to him in Woodbury, Tennessee on Saturday. I'm like, oh my God. I'm like, are you sure you want to do that? He's like, yeah, man, you deserve it. I'm like, are you sure you want to do? I've always been super humble like that too, and I am, especially if coming from somebody like that. You know, he has always treated me like absolute gold.
Yeah.
And I think the world of Shane. I would do anything for the man. And I know I always have an open invitation to come down there.
Yeah.
He's looking for UConn now. So
yeah, he's doing. I love that he's still doing something and offering his, wisdom, because honestly, wrestling needs people like Shane more than ever, man.
Absolutely.
So
I almost kind of took over his Forsaken's role too, because I don't think there's any more famous feud, or one of them is the Mortons and the Devils.
Oh man, no. I mean,
and I wish I would have been around, down there at that time to see that feud, or the Devils and the Wild Boys too. I mean,
oh man,
I would have loved to see that in person.
Yeah,
but it's like I've always kind of taken, since once Rick retired, I'm going to be the next guy in line to eliminate that Morton name from wrestling. But last year, I did the promo with the tombstone. I found a one in the cemetery with the name Morton on it. And I did a promo, and I posted it, and all the fans were freaking, oh my God, he's going to kill Shane. And I went down there. It was after the reunion at UConn's show. And he, after 3 years of retirement, he came out of retirement to work me in a match. That is like such a special honor for me, because we've had a lot of tag matches together, but that was one and only singles match that we've ever had.
Gotcha. Okay.
So that was a very special thing for me, and that's one of my very highly personal, in my heart things that Shane did that for me, to come out of retirement after that long time to do that for me. So
yeah, Shane, the one thing that I've learned, and Rick too in a way, but Shane was a mentor to me. He really, my mentor lived in Virginia, so once I got out of his reach, essentially, and only phone calls, he taught me this as well. But Shane drilled it in my brain: does it or make it make sense? You know what I'm saying? It was the most important thing was, does it make sense? And and he also kind of helped me, as an early, and again, man, I'm sorry I'm going off on my stuff here, but as a manager, the one thing that annoys me the most is seeing a manager just running all over the place. And Shane drilled into me, stay in one spot. Don't, and I learned how to filter the heat to my guy with Shane too, where at the very first match, I managed a guy against Shane, and there were small things that I learned there, but at the same time, Shane taught me a lot of things, like especially the does it make sense? And if it doesn't make sense, just don't do it, because there's no, you don't have to make up stuff just to keep, just to be doing something. Standing there yelling is okay, but don't do stupid stuff like running around constantly. And
just like the brand new guys that are having their first matches, if you don't know how to do it, don't do it.
Right. Absolutely.
When people ask me, who trained you, Jimmy Blaze is always my number one, because he's the guy that broke me in. Yeah. And it's Rick Reynolds and Shane Morton. I credit those are my three trainers.
That's awesome. Yeah. So Jared, go ahead with your question.
All right. So I see in 2006 that you got to work a legend in a 6-man tag, King Kong Bundy.
Oh, yes.
A little bit about that.
That was the very first name that I got to work in the match. That was up in UWE in, I think that was in Farwell, Michigan. It was at a high school. Okay. And I remember walking in there, and it was supposed to be, I was wrestling some other guy. I don't remember who it was supposed to be, but it was a 6-man tag that Bundy was going to be involved in, and one of the guys didn't show up. So I think I just did a battle royal that night, and Eric Freedom put me in that spot of the guy that didn't show up. I'm like, oh my God, thank you so much. This is going to be awesome. when he came in, that man has the largest back I have ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
The widest back. He was humongous.
Yeah.
And I don't know if anybody's ever really told stories or heard anything about him, but he is one of the nicest people that I have ever met, as far as, a big name guy. He was and he has such a sense of humor on him. And I know he did a lot of stand-up stuff, actually.
Yeah.
In the couple of years before he passed away. Yeah. So he was a really, really funny guy.
That's what I've heard, is that the interviews that I've seen him, he is just so real and hilarious. It's just like, he almost, I'm sure he has some sort of ego, but it seems like he just is so humble too,
he was an amazing guy too. And I always made it a point, and I still do to this day, when I meet somebody, that came from the era that I like, the very first thing I have to go talk to them and tell them, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for everything you've done in this business. Thank you for influencing me and me watching you. And thank you for influencing me on my career. If there's anything that I've seen you guys do, that I've picked up on and, added it to what I do, but, put my tweak on it, thank you for everything you do, because they don't hear that enough. and they deserve it more than anything. Yeah. And I think it really means a lot to them when I say it, because I can kind of tell they're, they change a little bit when I say that. And I've had when I met Ted DiBiase the second time, he was in a card shop around my house here, and he almost got emotional when I told him that too, because like I said, I don't think a lot of people tell those guys that, and because
they're like, do you remember when you worked this guy? Remember that? Right. So it's like they're like member berries, they're not really. Yeah.
They definitely deserve it because they put the time in, and they're on, in front of the world, and they're doing their thing, and they did a great job at what they were doing. And I remember coming up to him, and I told him that, and he was very, very humble. He's like, thank you very much. That means a lot to me, and I appreciate that you. Remember me from that far back. And, I said, no, man, thank you for everything. And so he took a liking to me right away, from that. And then the two partners that I had were not any good. They were cocky. Actually, that was the name of the team. The Cocky Little Brats was their name.
Gotcha.
They're probably 5'4", 150 pounds soaking wet. And the one little guy just had a mouth on him, and Bundy was not happy. He was pissing him off, almost like he might have even been telling him what he was going to do in the match.
Oh,
and I
man.
See his face like, oh, boy. I'm glad I'm in good with him. I'm going to be okay, even though I'm going to get across the ring. Yeah. So it was me and my two partners against Jimmy Blaze, Eric Freedom, and King Kong Bundy.
Wow.
So when we got in the ring, I remember Jimmy told me after the match, Bundy leaned over in the corner. He's like, man, these other guys, they don't have gear. They're the shits and this stuff. And he's like, who's this kid with the only guy that's got gear over there? And Jimmy's like, oh, it's one of my students. He's like, oh, he has gear. He looks pretty good. He's not too bad. I'm like, oh, I'll take that as a compliment any day.
Heck, yeah,
that's pretty cool,
Yeah, seriously.
The finish of the match was we get into the big three-way train wreck at the end.
Yeah.
So one of my partners gets thrown in the corner, then the other one does, then I'm the last guy to get thrown in the corner, so we're triple stacked in the corner. And I'm the lead guy in the front, and Jimmy and Eric go take Bundy by the hands and whip him off into an avalanche to all three of us at the same time. So here I see him running at me, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm going to die. And and I'm the front guy, and he comes and hits me, and it was like getting hit with a sponge. It was light. It was really, really light. And I'm like, wow, that wasn't bad at all. Then I bumped out. The other guy bumped out, and then this other guy did this stupid, goofy kind of stumble walk forward, and then he bumps to his back, almost like a reverse Ric Flair flop kind of a thing.
Okay.
So I knew Bundy was still waiting for his chance to get this kid.
Yeah. So
as I'm laying on the apron, I got one eye looking to see what's going to happen, and he hit the ropes, and he dropped this elbow, and oh my God, his head disappeared underneath Bundy's armpit. He decapitated this kid.
Little Beaver, right? What was it?
Absolutely crushed. Oh, Little Beaver? Yeah, he did it. Little Beaver.
Little Beaver, yeah.
But I mean, you couldn't even see this kid's head because that's how deep he elbow dropped this guy. I mean, he just crushed him.
Man.
So that was his little receipt for being a big mouth. But yeah, he was nothing but nice. I can't say anything bad about Bundy. He was amazing.
I'm glad you told us it felt like a sponge, because my question was coming. How did that feel? Because I can't, it's hard for people to imagine that wouldn't just hurt to some degree. But
like right before he came in, I kind of turned my head a little bit and closed my eyes. I'm like, ugh! And then I'm like, oh, that wasn't bad at all. Guy running like that at you, 400 pounds running at you, no. Wasn't bad at all.
Tensing up like a car accident's about to happen.
So, yep. Yeah. It was nice and light.
Yeah. So, after this match, you end up doing some great feuds, and you actually had some various feuds in Classic Championship. But one of the feuds obviously was with your main trainer there, Jimmy Blaze. Talk about your feud with him during that time.
That's been on and off, probably even to this day. Yeah. There's always been a feud, comes and goes with him. It's been so much fun because he likes to do the street fight stuff and likes to bleed. So it was almost like a natural chemistry between us to do a lot of street fights and hardcore stuff, not deathmatch stuff because we're not into that level. But
right.
Like you can wrestle. When it gets to that level, it's not wrestling anymore. Mm-hmm. Because still when you do hardcore and street fights, it's still a match. You still have to have psychology.
Right.
There's a certain way it's got to be done.
Of course.
Yeah, we've always had natural chemistry when it comes to those type of matches. And we've probably had, I don't know, every year, every 2 years we get back together and do something again too. And it's always fun to work with him. He's 33 years in now, 1990.
Wow.
I think he might be done at the end of the year as far as
Gotcha. Yeah, that's sometimes the whole part of it is figuring out when to tap, right? That's the other part of it. But
that I don't ever want to do that.
I love
I'm going on. I just
Ricky
entered
Morton,
20th
baby.
year.
Yeah,
I just passed 19, so I'm into my 20th year now, and I mean, my hips and my knees are starting to get sore and stuff now. That's for the first time, and my neck has always been bad. Oh, there's a good story for you too. The neck.
Let's hear it. Yeah,
that was in Tennessee also. All my good stuff happens in Tennessee. That's why I love it so much. So this was another Thanksgiving trip. This was in November of 2006 in Woodbury. Mm-hmm. And it was myself and Forsaken against Dave Storm and a guy named Thunderfoot.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And he's the guy now that wrestles as Yabo the Clown for NWA.
Love that gimmick, by the way.
And
so cool. Yeah.
The Ruffo is Rough Crossing.
Right. So they're brothers, right?
Yes. And that's Rough Crossing has been my tag team partner forever. There's no tattoos. Yeah,
we'll get there. I promise. This is coming.
Yep. So that's what
I definitely want to talk about. Yeah, that's very cool. Yeah.
So we do the whole match. The finish is on me, or to set up the actual finish is on me, but they're going to hit me with their finishing move, which is like a double suplex, but they like pick me up and hold me up for like a vertical suplex. Mm-hmm. But they're supposed to drop me in between the two of them, like chest belly first. Mm-hmm. Almost like an Arn Anderson, like a gourd buster, where you drop them on his front. Yeah. But they bump to their backs and they drop me in between them. Mm. It's kind of a weird move like that. Mm. It's just like a flat flapjack bump for me.
Sure.
So when they picked me up, Dave had his arm around my head so tight that my chin was touching my chest and I couldn't move.
Gotcha.
So they picked me up and I probably went I didn't go 90 degrees straight up. I maybe went 60 degrees with my legs.
Yeah.
And then he didn't tell Thunderfoot when, okay, let's go. He just kicked his legs out. So I'm starting to go down at an angle, towards his side. And then Thunderfoot tried to kick his legs out to try to even it out, because he knows something screwed up.
Yeah.
So I landed straight down on the top of my head from the suplex height. With my chin touched to my chest. I landed directly on my head like that. Ouch. So my neck cracked. I got the big stinger down my back. That went all the way into like my butt, that far down there. And I just kind of flopped over because I have the video. I can send that to you too sometime. I flopped over and my leg, everything was just like limp. I remember like kind of opening my eyes and I'm like, holy crap, oh my God, and I started, moving everything. I moved my arms, my legs, my fingers, toes. I mean, I moved everything I could. I'm like, okay, I'm not paralyzed. I'm okay. So I didn't like freak out or nothing because, it's just, you're going to get hurt in wrestling. It's not if, it's when.
Right.
It's guaranteed. It's going to happen sometime. It's just part of the business. So I've never been scared to get hurt.
Yeah.
But that right there, Dave was going to cover me, which he did. And Forsaken came by, picked him up, choke slammed him. He reached for me, pulled me on Dave, and then the ref turned around, 1, 2, 3, and that was it. I rolled outside, and he grabbed me. He's like, "You all right?" I said, "No, dude, I'm dying here." I said, "I can move everything, so I'm fine, but it's just killing me right now." So he helped me to the back, and the Dave guy never really asked anything, never said anything about the match, never asked if I was okay. So I don't really put him in my trainer category because he's done a lot of shady stuff. So he's kind of removed, from my training list.
Gotcha.
He's got a past that he kind of comes and goes and does not good things. And, it just seemed like he didn't even care what happened. Even if he did know what happened, he didn't really, acknowledge it. Didn't say anything at all. But Thunderfoot was freaking out. He was more scared than I was. He was screaming, "Oh my God!" "Oh my God, you okay? You okay?" And he got me a bag of ice and put a bag of ice on it. And I've never gotten it checked out.
Oh, one day you'll have to, I would assume. So
yeah, it's like not that I'm scared to know what happened, but I just have that same thing. Okay, tape it up and keep going.
Yeah, maybe some compression going on there, something.
Press discs, when we were driving home that night, it felt like from like the base of my head and then down to where my neck meets my shoulders and then into my right shoulder, it felt like it was on fire. So I don't know if there was some, nerve damage, nerve pinching or anything like that in there. But even after that match, there were 2 or 3 matches later, I went out there again and did a run-in in the match later that night.
Gotcha, man. Yeah, well, get it checked out soon, man. Definitely sometime.
Yeah, I've never ever taken time off.
Yeah.
Well, if you notice anything going numb.
Yeah, so I'm going to keep going as long as if I can walk to the ring I'll still do it. But the day I can't walk to the ring, then I'll be done.
So you really are like the Terry Funk. So I get it.
Tell us a little bit about working Jamie Dundee.
Everybody's got Jamie Dundee voice, right? But I can't do it that well, so I'm not going to.
Oh, come on, man, you can do it.
Yeah, that was another connection through Forsaken too. He came up to one of our CCW shows, and we used to do something called the Fans Pick the Matches, where it was a shoot where we had two different buckets, heels on one side, babies in the other. And the ring announcer would call a person's name to come up and pick a name out of the jar or whatever. Yeah. So it was actually a shoot thing. And, we just had certain finishes if certain people did this or you worked this person. The very first name that got picked was mine when we did it for the first time. And I'm like, oh my God, I hope I call Jamie. Because that was one of his first shows up there. And sure enough, the guy picked Jamie Dundee. So I got a singles match with him and it was amazing.
Yeah.
It was so nice to be in there with somebody, from the good old days, that can just, and it was a whole walk and talk thing too.
Right.
So I was super comfortable. He was comfortable and, he had no problem putting me over, which I really appreciate. Again, that matters to me. It's who cares about who goes over, as long as it makes sense. But yeah, we got to be really, really good friends. And then he started booking in another CCW Coliseum Championship Wrestling in Evansville, Indiana at the Coliseum. And that became one of my absolute favorite places to work because that's the famous Wednesday night in the Memphis circuit.
Yeah.
Memphis on Mondays, Louisville Gardens on Tuesdays, and then Evansville on Wednesdays.
Yeah.
He used to do legend shows where he would bring in all the old names. And I think we missed the first one, and he had us come down from the second one. We did every one after that. The first Wednesday of the month, he would have the legend shows. Just absolutely amazing to be in the locker room with all those guys. I've got so many good stories and memories from hanging out with, Jamie and Dutch and the Rock and Roll Express and Bobby Eaton and Tracy Smothers and Bushwhacker Luke. I mean, there were so many guys, and they had us come and sit and change with them instead of changing with the young guys because they didn't really talk to the younger guys. Gotcha. But I don't know if we got the rub from Jamie or, just how we acted and, carried ourselves, but they always had us come with them and they treated us like one of their own. And to me, that is such a huge honor.
That's it, man. Yeah. Yeah, you just named like a Memphis or Tennessee Mount Rushmore right there, man. So, the funny thing is with Jamie, man, a lot of people understand this, but sometimes they don't realize that this kid was born in the business, man. He literally, from 4 years old on, he basically was involved in some way from either selling pictures to fat girls, as he says, he's selling kisses to fat girls, or if he got his ear pierced by Tommy Rich. I mean, I've interviewed Jamie a couple times, obviously, because I'm on the Wolfie D podcast, but Jamie is he's an original, man. There's nobody like him,
he's had his vices, demons like anybody else has, and he's been straight for a while now, which is awesome. Mm-hmm. His wife is a great person. We both married girls that are named Angela, and I think that's a good thing because they're both great for us. Every time we'd go there, we'd stay at his house and have crazy times there and stuff. And here's a good one. Everybody's got Jamie's story. So I think the first or second show we ever did there, we drove, Ruff and I came down there. No, this was the second show we went there. We went to his house and Brian Christopher and Bill Dundee pulled up at the same time also.
Yeah.
So, and we knew that from the show before. And going to his house first, I think I go in, Ruff's behind me, and then the other two guys are behind him. And go in his front door, and then you go like where the kitchen's at. You turn left, and it goes down the hallway where the bathrooms and the bedroom are. And he goes, "That's you, Scott Spade?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's me." And he comes running out of the bathroom, butt naked. Runs and jumps in my arms with his legs wrapped around me, and I'm holding him there.
God.
As he's like giving me this like bear hug up, with his legs wrapped around me, totally naked. And I kind of turn my head. Right behind me is Brian Christopher and Bill Dundee staring at me holding Jamie naked in there. It's like, and I dropped him right away. I'm like, I swear we don't do this every time we see each other. I've got nothing to do with this. This is all his idea. And they just kind of like look at each other like, yeah, we know. So it was like, oh shit. It was kind of an awkward moment, but yeah, he just does anything for a laugh. And he is one of those guys too that doesn't get enough credit for being the guy that will give you the shirt off of his back.
Yeah.
If you ask for it.
It's true.
He has a heart of gold, and he's a really, really good person. I actually stood up in his wedding.
Wow. Okay, that's awesome.
It was me, Buzzed Up, and Bill Dundee for the guy standing up in his wedding.
Very cool.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, very cool.
Got to meet his mom. She was a really, really sweet lady.
Yeah.
So she passed away. Beverly. Yeah, she was really, really nice.
Yeah. Jamie, there's never going to be another one like him. He's just he's just an original, man. It's funny. I've been trying to talk to, randomly after we have him on the podcast or something, he'll be like, what are you doing with these podcasts, man? How you do these podcasts? And I'm like, well, and he's like, I got this guy in Texas. He's wanting to do a podcast. He's Jesus, Alan Coe. He's going to do one with me. And I'm like, well, do it, brother. I'll advise you as much as you need. And I'm also trying to beg him to do some sort of comedy show, but I can't remember stuff, man. And I'm like, you don't have to, Jamie. Just pick somebody and talk about them,
He's so good at just coming up with. He's very quick-witted. So he doesn't have to come up with an act. He could just go out there and just do it.
Riff, man. And he's the king of the name game. We have the name game with you coming up here in a minute, but he truly is. You could do a whole episode just on name game, with him.
Yeah, so, being born into the business like that, he's seen so many guys.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Join me, Gene Jackson, for the Jackson Interaction Podcast, where I'll be doing one-on-one interviews with people from the world of professional wrestling, as well as stand-up comedy. You can get them anywhere podcasts are available in both video and audio form, but you can find them all at genejacksonpod.com.
If you're a fan of rock and music, I'd really appreciate it if you took a moment to check out my podcast. It's called the Decibel Geek Podcast. We've been doing it for about 10 years now. We talk about Kiss. We talk about Ozzy. We talk about Motley Crue and Guns N' Roses and Metallica. We talk about all the legends from the 60s and on, up to brand new bands that you should be hearing about today that you're not going to hear on the radio. It's Decibel Geek. Wherever you find your podcasts, you'll find us there. If you love rock and roll, I can almost guarantee you're going to love my show.
So, this leads into, I think the first time I'd ever heard of you, as I've never met you, obviously, but heard of you on the scene was because of the Noise, Booze, and Tattoos with Rough Crossing tag team. Talk about that coming together and you guys working together. Yeah,
we were always heel babyface opposites. He was always like a cowboy gimmick because he was kind of Dave's partner. And they did a cowboy thing. And then I never really did the biker look that I do more now. It was just, I would just wear, my favorite, like a Motorhead t-shirt out there, but I never had any other gear besides that.
Yeah.
And then when we finally got together and started traveling, because we were still babyface and heel up in Chicago, we started going everywhere else, as a tag team. And he came up with that name, the Noise, for, really loud, heavy music that we like to listen to. Booze, just kind of the way we look, kind of like bar brawler kind of guys. And the funny thing is that he drinks, but I don't. I've never had a drink in my life. I've never had
teetotaler,
nothing at all. Never.
Wow, that's impressive. I respect
tattoos.
That.
Of course, we got a lot of tattoos, and I've got way more than he does. But the name just kind of rolls off your tongue really nice.
It does, yeah.
So we and then we kind of halfway did our gimmicks, to make ourselves more look like each other. He kind of toned down the cowboy stuff to look more like me. And then I got a pair of chaps to look like him, so we come out with leather vests and leather chaps. And he would have his big bull rope with a cowbell still, and then I had the big giant chain with me. So, we are an amazing team together. I think I'm more proud of the tag team work that we've done than I have done anything singles.
Yeah.
That's just how much I value us working together, because it's like a Heart Foundation or a British Bulldogs kind of a thing where you don't even have to talk to each other when you're out there. You can read each other's minds.
Yeah.
And there's not a people that can experience that unless you really have that partner that's just so in tune with your own brain. You just give them the look, and this is, we just know what we're going to do. We know the way we think. We know, what we're going to do next, and we don't even talk when we're out there.
Yeah.
And we're a very, very good team.
That's like a mind meld kind of thing. Now, from my records that I've seen in my research here, you guys got to work an absolute legendary tag team. And I do believe it was in Evansville, if I'm not mistaken. You got to work the Rock and Roll Express. I've got to manage against Ricky, and I'm actually forced myself because I was like, he's on the same show as me. It may not ever happen again, even though it did. Right. I'm making this happen. And I was like, look, I'm the biggest mark in this building. I don't care what you call me. I'm managing against Ricky Morton. But anyway, when it comes down to it, how was it working those guys, man?
That was a for sure highlight of my entire career. I mean, to me, a lot of people say the Road Warriors are the greatest tag team of all time. That might be true, but they were kind of, I don't want to say, they only had a small window of like actually things they did. They were more offense than defense kind of a thing. I think the Rock and Rolls, I think, in my opinion, is probably the greatest team of all time because they were the total package of the greatest baby faces for sure. Yeah. But, I mean, they're the total package of the team, and I don't think there's any better matches between them and the Midnights. That's the best of ever combination ever.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can learn so much by just watching one of their matches. It's a masterpiece.
Yeah.
Jamie did a tournament for the tag team belts, and they were the tag team champions at the Coliseum at the time. And I think this was actually our second show there. So he actually told us we're going to have you go all the way through, and you get to work Ricky and Robert. I'm like, oh my God, are you serious? Yeah. I'm like, oh, this is going to be so much fun. And so we wrestled. I think Shane Morton, and he had a partner at the time called Devin Domain.
Devin Domain, yeah.
He's a good dude too. They were the Lincoln County Regulators.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, that was the first match, and we beat them. And then the next match, I believe, was against. See if my memory is failing here. I think it was Buzzed Up and Jay Grunge, maybe.
Okay.
Father Jay, he was called at the time.
Gotcha.
And we went over on them, and then the final match, that was the finals. And then we got to face the Rock and Roll in the main event at the historic house. I mean, everything was like a holy shit moment. Like wrestling in the main event in a super historic building against the greatest tag team of all time.
Man.
And it was so late at night, though. That was the only bad thing. It was getting close to like 11 o'clock at night. They had to drive back home. So Ricky, I think, was going with Bill back to Tennessee, and I think Robert had to go all the way back to Pensacola or something like that. So they like, we got to make it quick. It's only going to be, a couple minutes. And I'm like, oh shit, I'm losing my chance to, get a really, a true match to go against these guys, to really have fun. But it's like, I really didn't care because just to be in the ring with them, for any amount of time, means the world to me. So it didn't matter. And they're the coolest guys in the world.
Absolutely.
So I remember before out there, just come in the ring, bail when we get in. As soon as we get introduced, come in, jump us, do the train wreck, and then one guy bump out, and we'll double drop kick in, and we'll go home.
Yeah.
Like, okay. And he's like, which one of you is taking the double drop kick? And before he could even finish that sentence, I raised my hand up. Me. I'm taking it. I'll take it. Okay. Roughly bump out, we'll do it on Scott. I'm like, yes, so sure enough, I get to say I did all that, and I took the double drop kick for the thing.
I love that. They're my favorite tag team of all time for sure. And I know the Road Warriors are considered the greatest, but to me, like you said, I think the Rock and Roll just were so crisp, so good. Man, if you haven't seen it, you've brought up the Bulldogs. I don't know if you've seen this or not, but you need to go online. It's the Main Event Comedy YouTube channel. They have a match on there. It's Rock and Roll versus the Bulldogs, which is like one of the matches. It's a great match, man. So
when did that? I've never heard of that. When did that?
Kansas City, or
I think so. Yeah. And
that's weird because it just seems like they would never meet anywhere at the same time.
Exactly.
I know. They were both in flux. I think they didn't work for the other promotion. That one wasn't working WWF and the other wasn't working for Crockett at that time. And
so it must have been after 1990.
No, it was still young. I mean, maybe late 80s. I can't remember exactly, but anyway, go on YouTube. It's on there. It's great, man.
Yeah, I'll check it out for sure.
Yeah, we love that match. So, was there one thing you picked up from getting to work those guys?
Yeah, I mean, just this. I mean, less is more. I mean, I've always been in tune from day one too. That Forsaken is a guy, and also Shane. Less is more, and there's a lot of companies too that I work for that, the kids like to go, 15, 20 minutes. It's like, I could do that back, when I was their age, but, I don't think I could do that now. I mean, I'm sure I could, but, I work so slow at a slow pace, like all the guys did that I grew up watching. And that's what it's all about. You really got to pace yourself. And I could do what they try to do in 20 minutes. I could do it in 3 minutes and get a bigger response. It's not having a long match. I can get it done in a short amount of time and I can get that reaction. I don't need a long match to do it.
Yeah, very cool.
If you could do it in a short match and get your point across in 5 minutes, I'm fine with that.
Yeah. Tell a story.
I don't have time to do it.
Right, exactly. Yeah, you don't have
actually. Robert was showing me some shoot holds that night before we went out there.
Indian Deathlock. Did he show you the Indian Deathlock?
No.
Yeah.
He showed me
like a sugar.
Put your forearm. Oh, I knew that one from Shane. Shane taught me that.
Okay, gotcha.
I've seen him put down a handful of people with that thing. That's an amazing hold.
I love that move. Yeah.
Yeah, Robert was showing me when you lock up, putting the forearm across the guy's face and doing this here with leverage things and stuff like that. And yeah, that was really, really cool. And they sat me down over there too, and them two and Dutch, and I don't remember who else was there. I think it was just those three. Like, come here, kid, grab a chair. And man, I couldn't grab a chair fast enough. So they were just a bunch of stories of all just their experiences weekly at the Coliseum. I'm like, oh my God, that is my favorite thing in the world, just to sit there and hear stories.
Now, okay, tell me, I know you're going to say this but the one thing that Ricky said to you before you all went out there, what was it?
What he said to me?
Don't hurt me?
No, I don't remember him saying that.
Really?
I don't remember him saying anything besides just, double drop kicks to finish and, we'll see you out there, guys.
Gotcha. Okay, well, that's cool. I've just heard him say that. Now, maybe that's because you came with a little bit of a history that he had kind of gotten to know. Maybe he trusted you a little more, but I've heard him say, now, don't hurt me.
I have heard that before, yeah. But, yeah, he's seen us before that. And, again, I think I'm sure Jamie mentioned something to him, too. I'm sure he wouldn't have put us with them, if they did feel comfortable for it, or, we wouldn't be able to take care of them. So
Right. That's cool.
I'm just going to interject and say that the Rock and Roll Express versus the British Bulldogs was part of the AWA All-Star Wrestling, March 5th, 1989. So,
really? Cool. I knew Rock and Roll did a couple AWAs, but I never knew Bulldogs did.
Yeah, because they kind of clashed with the Midnight Rockers for just a second. That was kind of like a dream thing, too. Yeah. All
right, and my next question. Tell us about working, is it 2011 Gypsy Joe's retirement show?
Ooh. I remember 2011. I remember being at shows with him in the early days, 04, 05, the Grand Slam, he was up there, but I don't know. I can't remember doing a retirement show.
Yeah, it showed that you worked with Shane. You tagged with Shane on the Gypsy Joe retirement show. Maybe
I remember that match. Yeah, I don't remember being labeled that.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's a really, really weird tag team match. Because it was like half of a baby and half of a heel on each team.
Right.
Instead of me and Forsaken against Rough Crossing and Shane, it was the other way around. It felt so awkward too, coming in the babyface front door in Tullahoma. It's like, this is not right. I'm not supposed to be here. Yeah. It was really, really weird. So
what was the story with that?
I don't know why they switched it.
Okay.
Just maybe don't know.
Gotcha.
But it was just weird, doing what I've done before that there. And then all of a sudden one week I'm coming out with Shane, the biggest baby face in the world down there. And it's like, I'll just follow what he does, I guess. It just felt really awkward, to be a baby, especially there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm glad you said that, though, because that's something I could probably put in my notes, too. I didn't know it was a Gypsy retirement show.
Yeah, that's the official title of it. And it was in Tullahoma, and it was for SWF. So, yeah, that's
a real cool building, too.
Yeah,
I got one story about that one if you want.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ruff and I went down there because after the Grand Slam was done and after Freddie Morton's Auction House was done, that was the next main promotion that we did shows at. And then I've been at a bunch of shows with Gypsy before too, and he was a great, great guy. And I always remember his famous quote, "Hit me harder, hit me harder."
Yeah.
Yes, he treated me really, really well, and I really appreciate that too. And he trained Rick, so I'm sure there was some, this guy's okay, so treat him well.
Right.
So yeah, he was a great guy. I got nothing but good things to say about Gypsy. He was definitely one of the toughest guys I have ever seen in my life, with all the stories and everything like that. And the very first time I ever met him was at the Grand Slam, and I came up to shook his hand, and he was sitting right next to Rick, and he just stands up really quick and almost gets in my face. He's like, "So, you know everything about me, kid? Tell me. What do you know about me? Tell me." And I kind of take a couple steps back, and I put my hand down, from trying to shake his hand. I'm like, oh, my God, is this guy going to kill me?
Yeah.
And Rick's just sitting there with a big, giant smile on his face. And I'm like, he's like, "So, kid, come on, tell me. You know everything about me. Tell me." And then he's just like, no, I'm just messing with you. I'm like, whew. I thought I was going to get killed by the legend himself. He just put his arm around me. He's like, I'm just messing with you. I'm like, oh, thank God. Rick is just sitting there in his chair laughing his ass off. And I go up to him like, "You jerk. You set me up for that one, didn't you?" And he's like, "Yep, I did."
The world's toughest wrestler is in my face telling me to tell
I knew his reputation. I've seen his stuff in Japan before that. And I've heard so many stories about him. And that just like really caught me off guard. I was scared there for a minute. Yeah. He just smiled and laughed about it. And so that's a pretty cool memory I have of him.
That is very cool. Yeah.
It's all a home match. It was me and Shane. Oh, I'm sorry. Crossing against Doug Harrison. Remember him? The guy with the snake?
Yeah.
Super, super nice guy. I love him too. And Shane Morton, they were the tag team champions then. And I think it was probably August or July, and it was 100 degrees out there. Man, was it hot. Mm-hmm. It gets hot in Tennessee in the arena. Oh, my God. Mm-hmm. And we probably went 40 minutes. We didn't say a word to each other before. We didn't say hardly anything at all in the ring to each other. And it was an amazing, amazing match. And I remember in the open, Doug Harrison locked up with me. We did something, and I ran, he put me in a go behind, and I ran over to Rick and, hugged him, kind of like a effeminate kind of thing. And everybody was always giving us shit and stuff. And then we locked up again, and he pushed me back into Shane's corner, and he did a clean break. And Shane took the tag rope, stuck it in my ear, and screamed "snake." And I screamed at the top of my lungs and ran over and jumped in Rick's arms and stuff. So it's like, it was a really, really funny, ad-libbed moment. You just thought of that. I just played with it the whole time, and it got a good pop from the crowd. And that was a really fun match. And that's the thing I love about just going out there and just doing it and just playing off of who you're working, playing off the crowd, and you don't talk about nothing.
Right. That's so good. Yeah. Shane is just the king of that too, man. He is just ad lib, and that's one thing that I love about Shane is he's all about the small little stuff that just kind of, it entertains the guys in the ring at the same time as it does the crowd, It's so
fun. And I think on the hot tag, one of the things too, Ruff got a hot tag in a different match we were in, and I know Shane's famous line too. Ruff blasted Shane with a forearm. He's like, "Oh, damn, do I owe you money?" I'm sure you've heard him say that before.
Oh, yes, I have. Yeah.
I could almost hear him when I was in the corner on the other side that he yelled that out, and I was just laughing.
Oh, man. Well, there's so much. We're going to, so it's kind of wrapping things up. We're going to lead into our famous name game here. But, there's so much stuff we can talk further about. We can get you back on. But leading out of the Tennessee stuff, but I just would kind of like to know, especially since you've really had your home base there in the Chicago area there, what would you say is the current state of, maybe from your Tennessee time leading up to now, what would you say is the current state of Chicago wrestling as it is?
There's so many promotions right now. I think that's a negative.
Yeah. It's like Memphis, man. Memphis is like that. Yeah.
There's so many going on, and there's so many of the same guys that work for so many of the same companies.
Right.
So it's like you can go to any company and see the same guy. So it's like, why would you go to this certain company when you can just see him somewhere else?
Right.
And I understand the point of getting yourself out there and work in different places, but go further away. Go travel, in different places.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just like the same thing, like how I train guys. They actually made me a trainer only after I was in a year.
Wow.
Made me a trainer. So I've been training guys for 18 years.
Did you have a sports background, man? Did you take to it so easy because of that, or are you just a natural?
I didn't do amateur wrestling. I just did it as part of gym class, but I always played baseball. I was big into bowling. Even though it's not a physical sport, but baseball is really the only thing I really did.
Yeah, but in the Chicago area, that in the Illinois, in the Midwest, because you're not, I was like thinking this might be our first Yankee, but you're not a Yankee. You're just a Midwestern Northern guy.
That's actually what my wife too, because she's from Kentucky, and I always call her a Southerner. And I'm the Civil War reenactments, I'm gonna go turn her into the Union side, as a prisoner and stuff like that. Shit. So yeah, she calls me a Yankee too, just because it's past that northern line. One of Shane's things too, when he's a heel, when he was up here, he would always say, if it wasn't for the North, we would have won the war.
Yeah,
it's just like it's kind of like a duh. It's like it's so stupid you got to think about it.
I know that's genius. That's so funny. Yeah. Well, okay. I tell you what, man. I don't want to cut this short, but I do want to lead into the name game. Are you willing to play the name game with us, brother?
I would love to.
All right, we'll be right back. DJ, hit the music. All right, we are back with the name game and the Ace of Spades, Scott Spade. All right, so we always play the name game here. We just go over names. We're going to, this will be a little bit of a, going back over some of the names we talked about. Maybe we have some names that we haven't talked about yet. So just from our research, we've called these names and we think these will be interesting. So the very first one I'm going to go with, and Jared, we'll just do this back and forth, okay? The very first one I go with is, of course, Jimmy Blaze.
Oh. Yeah, he is the guy that broke me into the business, and we've had a rocky relationship at one point. I left the company for a couple of years, and I came back. But we've always got along better now again than we've ever have, and he will always be, no matter what, the guy that broke me in, and I will never, ever take it away from him. So if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be in this business.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Rough Crossing.
Oh, my best friend. Best tag team partner I've ever had. Sorry, Rick, Forsaken. They'll probably kill me for saying that, because I did another podcast here recently too, and he immediately said, "Oh, I'm not your favorite tag team partner." No, because they said who was the better partner, Rough or Forsaken. I'm like, oh my god, you're gonna get me killed.
Yeah,
he was my learning partner, and I had so much fun with him. But I just think, as far as like the chemistry and, like you said, the mind reading of Noise, Booze, and Tattoos is just such a phenomenal chemistry that we had together. And him and I are the two. He's the only guy that I've ever gone all over the country with. Somebody that will always have my back, somebody that could always trust me, somebody would always be there if somebody, and does something stupid in the ring. And, we've been everywhere, all those places, Wisconsin, Tennessee, Indiana, Michigan. We did a trip to Jimmy Valiant's house.
Yes.
He was there at Evansville Coliseums. Yeah, He invited us to his house.
Yeah.
And we went out there. We went to Kingsport, Tennessee on the way. We did Huntington, West Virginia. And then we stopped at Boogie's on Sunday. We did a trip up to Connecticut for a couple of dates. We did Florida. We worked for Alvin in Athens, Alabama, too. We even got to be in early enough to actually work for him. I think he's passed away since then, hasn't he?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I do believe so.
He was pretty old, not disrespectfully, but he was pretty old, back then, when we were working for him. But yeah, we actually got to do a couple shows, for Alvin in Athens down there too. So yeah, we've been everywhere together, and he's been the perfect partner. And I know he's really busy right now, do the NWA thing, and we still got to hook up one of these days, to get BT going again. If we can just do a match here, a match there. But yeah, I miss it very much.
Yeah. Yeah, great tag team they've got going there. But, talking about Boogie's school, that's funny because, I love Boogie, respect him immensely, of course, who doesn't? But I wish he were a little more selective on the guys he puts out into the world, but we won't get into that. I think one of his biggest claim to fame obviously is Hangman Adam Page, but some of the guys are not. Let's just go on here.
When he went there, he let us kind of train one of his classes for the day too. Let's go in there and help the guys out and stuff like that. And
that's cool.
He was an amazing nice guy.
Yeah, and that area is basically our home turf, mine and my brother's home turf. So
really?
We're in southwestern Virginia, near Kingsport, near Bristol, Tennessee.
Not far,
not far at all.
Oh, nice.
Go there very often, actually. Now, I live in Charlotte, North Carolina, but whenever I'm home, we usually end up taking a trip to eat somewhere out that way. So, yeah, very cool. So the next name on the list is Tommy Capone.
Tommy Capone. He was a regular in the early CCW days when it started. I think he was actually the connection that got Forsaken up here because they were in that PCW company together. He was a tag team partner of Jimmy Blaze. And I think he went by the name of Bobby Blaze.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay.
His first name. Yeah. And then he moved to Tennessee to become a police officer of some kind.
Gotcha.
What level, if he's a sheriff or something like that. But I think that was the connection where he started wrestling down there, and that's where Forsaken came up, and they got the whole idea to form the CCW company. But yeah, one of my early feuds in 2005 over the CCW regional title, is one of the belts that we had, was with Tommy Capone.
Very cool.
Good guy too. I've never had a problem with him at all.
Very cool. He's
a good dude.
How about Eric Freedom?
Eric Freedom, the real life hippie, that's for sure. He lives his gimmick. One of the greatest guys, total wealth of knowledge. He's originally here from Westmont, Illinois.
Okay.
Which is pretty close to where I grew up. And then I don't remember how pretty early he moved up to Michigan in Cadillac. And then he started his own company. And he used to do WWF TV matches.
Yeah.
For all those guys, and he got a lot of connections out of that too. And he's really, really smooth in the ring. And same thing with Jimmy. I think he's gonna end stuff the end of this active career at the end of this year too.
Wow.
I was able to do a lot of stuff with him too, and he's such a pleasure in the ring to work with too. And he's got that thing in the ring too, where he'll try to make you laugh or crack up or do some goofy stuff. I remember one of the earliest times I was in a battle royal, and he came over to me, started punching me in the corner, got up in the corner, started doing the 10 count, and he went down. Instead of hitting the 10 punch, came down to look like he was biting me, but he was sticking his tongue in my ear. So he would do goofy, crazy stuff like that. He would do something, leapfrog over you and goose you from behind, when you go over you, and crazy, funny stuff like that. But yeah, I love Eric. He's a great, great guy.
That's awesome. Well, speaking of another great guy, we've got, you've mentioned him several times now, and this is, somebody that I think is hilarious and has always been the guy that you kind of think of the guy that's very hilarious in the locker room is Buzzed Up.
Oh, man. He does not get enough credit, I think, as one of the best big men in the area.
Yeah.
The places he's gone to, he's always been, his weight has fluctuated, from, I don't know what you want to say, 300 pounds maybe at his lightest to, 450 or whatever. But, man, he can move.
Yeah.
He's really, really light. Really, almost like you have to watch him to actually see and not, versus the feel.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's such a great, great person. He would come up too, and Forsaken and Chris Danger and him would always stay at my house when they would come up, and I had some really, really good times with Buzzy. He's one of my favorite people I always got to see and make sure when I come down for the Yukon show or the reunion or something down there. So we've had some really, really good matches together too, up here and down there.
That's
I remember
awesome.
One time in the Fox Lake town that we did up here, we were the opening match of the show. And he was like so happy with the match and so proud of it. And I think Chris Danger and Forsaken were standing at the top of the stairs where the locker room was at, and he just starts screaming out, "Top that! Top that!" So they got to laugh at everybody. And if you ever get him on the show, he could be a good guest to have on the show, sure.
Yeah, we're planning on it.
If you just mention those two words or mention my name, just ask him what "top that" means. He will know exactly what I'm talking about.
Okay, sounds good. We'll definitely do that.
How about Terry Allen?
Ooh, Tenacious Terry Allen. I did a really, really early feud, same thing, 2005, a 6 or 7 month program with him, and he was a Windy City guy too. Very, very snug, and that's where I kind of learned to like the snug style. I was in I think either a Battle Royal or a first match with him, and man, his punch, and he actually had like the padded gloves on his hands too.
Oh,
and he was just wailing on me in the corner. And I remember coming up afterwards asking Jimmy, I'm like, man, did I do something wrong? Because I don't know if he was shooting on me or, if he was pissed at me or whatever. But I actually found out he called me like later in the week. And it's almost like I'm embarrassed to think that. But he's like, no, that's just how I work. And, you should learn how to work this way. And I said, no, you were great in there. You did everything. You followed me. You did everything good. But, if you want people to believe, you got to, you really got to be snug and this and that. And yeah, we just did a show this last couple days ago, Saturday, and he was on the show. He'll do a show every once in a while. But yeah, I have massive respect for him. He's a man's man. He's a great, great person. Really good.
Yeah, really. That's awesome. That's awesome. Very cool. Thunderfoot. Great gimmick. I wish he would have stuck with it versus the Clown, but he has definitely excelled on Diablo the Clown for sure. Because, that's his own baby. It's his own creation. But the Thunderfoot gimmick was really, really hot, especially in Tennessee. I mean, if he would have sold pictures or something like that, he would have made a fortune. Yeah, no doubt.
And they were always asking, when's he coming back? When's he coming back? And yeah, he was always mobbed with people, like
great
in admission or, just even coming out of the ring.
Yeah.
He was very athletic, very natural talented. Yeah, he had a great look. And I had a lot of tag matches with another partner of mine, Dayhawk, against him and Jamie.
Very cool.
Jamie started painting his face, and he did like the black gear with like blue tiger stripes, and he gave Thunderfoot gave him a blue headdress, so they kind of did the Indian thing together up here at CCW.
And that was one thing I was going to mention, the look of Thunderfoot, because it wasn't the classic like Wahoo McDaniel multicolored black red style. It was always had that blue tint to it. And I did see stuff with Jamie too, because Jamie was, of course, we can say this now, but he was Cyberpunk Ice, and that color scheme was in his gear that was made in Mexico when they were the Cyberpunks there for a minute. And
yeah, he was black and blue color, it seemed like.
Yeah, it always matched, and it matched Thunderfoot very well. It looked good. So,
how about Joey Chichi?
Joey Chichi, he is probably one of the guys that I would say is too nice to be in the wrestling business, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
There's a few people that are like that. You could probably count on one hand that are too nice to be in the business. He's one of those guys that will do anything for you, whether it's in the ring or out of the ring. One of the sweetest, nicest guys, super good sense of humor. Him and I are actually really good traveling partners because none of us drink or smoke. We like our hotel rooms ice cold.
Yeah.
And, we don't complain about nothing. We're just easy going. He's a really good travel partner. We've done Michigan trips together and stuff like that. And yeah, he's a really, really good guy.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love it ice cold too. That's how you got to stay, man, because I can sleep like a baby with that. But yeah, that's cool. It's funny that you bring up one of the nicest guys in the business, because I do feel like this next guy is one of the nicest guys. But I do know that if you're on the wrong side, just like you said earlier, you can really meet a world of misery, and that's Mr. Forsaken, aka Rick Reynolds.
Man. It's almost hard to talk about him because I hold him in such high regard. It's almost like I could talk about him and start getting emotional because that's how much I think about him.
Wow, that's awesome.
And like I said, all I've ever wanted to be like of somebody to look up to. Like I said, I never wanted to go to WWF or WWE. I always wanted to just be the best that I could be where I was at. Have people respect what I do in the ring and just say I could have a great match with anybody. And he was the one guy, if there was any guy, that I always wanted to be like, because I wanted to be the ultimate heel, which is what he is. And I just always loved the devilish, evil, dark, imagery and all that stuff. It's the way in my regular life too, the music and just the image of that stuff, and all my tattoos. And he is just such the master. He's my psychology professor.
That's awesome.
And he was just such a vicious heel, and he was the king of less is more. He didn't do a damn thing. Yeah. And he got these people on their feet, trying to get past the rope, trying to get over the guardrails, and security would have to hold him back. And then just somebody that doesn't take a liking to anybody, and me having the honor of him taking me under his wing. I mean, that means more to me than, anything that I could ever imagine. He is such a special friend to me, and I wish I could see him more, because we got, distance in between, and, we chat every now and then, but I miss him so much. And I love being able to be a tag team partner of his, and it was so much fun. And that match that he described to you, his retirement match, and we turned on him, and we did an angle where we dumped Drano in his eyes to start the feud, and he came to the match blindfolded, and then he ripped them off like he healed, and then he kicked my ass for 20 minutes, and it was just everything that we did together was just so special, and I hold him in in the ultimate highest regard over anybody that I've ever known in the wrestling business.
That's very cool, man. So the next guy, and I'm going to let Jared say the name, but like you said, Joey Chichi, I think this next guy is my guy. Now, I'm super happy that this guy is in the business because, first of all, he's great. Second of all, he needs to be in the business because the business needs someone like him. But he is also too nice for the business. Even though he'll stand up for himself, he is absolutely got a heart of gold, and he's absolutely one of my best wrestling buddies. Go ahead, Jared.
So if you've listened enough, you might know Jeremiah Plunkett.
Yes. I remember wrestling him, I think, in a tag match in Woodbury, Tennessee, really early in it. I think he started maybe a year after I did.
It's Jay Phoenix, I think. He was still working Jay Phoenix, I think, if I'm not.
Yes, that was his name. Yeah. That's correct. Yeah, that's the name I got. Oh, here I found it. I had a singles match with him and a tag match that same night. And that was in 2009, maybe 2007. I had the match with him and then a tag match in Woodbury. Yeah, man, to see him go from, I almost what do you want to say, a little pudgy kid when he first started to really getting into shape and, really taking it seriously, and now seeing what he's doing with the NWA stuff. And, we talked a little bit at the reunion and stuff, and man, he deserves every bit that he's gotten. He's such a good guy, and he's really taken his craft seriously, and he deserves nothing but anything that he gets. Really good dude.
Yeah, love him to death. He means the world to me, and he's absolutely knows why. So, yeah, the next name I've got on the list is, we've talked about him, and I don't know if there's much more to add, but when it comes down to it, Jamie Dundee.
I know, it's every time you mention that name, it's like you laugh because you get
know
so many different stories of what you've heard, and then now that I've had my own personal experiences with him, and yeah, he's taken really, really good care of Ruff and I, and like I said, he's always given the rub of putting us over with all the big names, on all those shows and stuff, and like I said, he was close enough with us. He had me stand up in his wedding and stuff like that, and yeah, just a great dude. Like I said, nobody knows. I don't really think, unless you're really, really close to that, he really is one of the sweetest guys, and he has a heart of gold, and he'll do anything for you. But it's too bad that his crazy reputation, kind of speaks for it. It's more in his past now, and I'm really glad that he's, cleaned up. He's been that way for quite a few years now too, and
yeah.
He's a really, really good guy. He's definitely opened the doors for me and meeting all those legends that I've always looked up to and down there, and yeah, he's a really nice guy.
Yeah, great.
I would never ever say anything other than nice things about him because he treated me great.
So the next name on the list is your previous tag team partner to the team you had with Ruff in the Pure Evil tag team with D-Hawk.
Yeah, that was fun. He started, I think, I want to say maybe a year and a half or 2 years after me, and I knew him. He was a mutual friend of Ruff. They all went to kind of high school area, the same location, time. I think they're both the same age, a couple years younger than me.
Gotcha.
And it was a good little team to start. Yeah, we had really good chemistry together, did the Evil thing, and then we eventually kind of formed a three-way thing with Forsaken and stuff, and then, eventually we turned on him because Rick was going to retire, and usually you go out, as a baby face, so we double-crossed him and did our thing, and yeah, we had a lot of fun together. We fit really good together.
That's awesome.
We've mentioned him several times and nothing but good things to say, but just a little something extra about Shane Morton.
Wow. I don't know if there is a limit on nice things to say about him. I talk to him probably once a week now too, especially now that he's booking. He's sending some guys of his up here for the SCW company that I'm working for, and then they're starting to send some guys down there. So doing kind of like a cross.
Nice.
Pollination, I guess you can say, yeah.
I love that, yeah.
He's always asking me, what do you think of this guy? What do you think of that guy? And this and that. And yeah, he's definitely my second psychology professor after Rick, for sure.
Yeah.
And just being just so smooth. Like I said, he's the greatest babyface I've ever been in the ring with. And just to open his house to us every time I come down there and, take us out to dinner or, put me over huge, when again, I'm not going to ask for it, but he's treated me, just like $1 million. And anything I ever asked him, he'd give it to me without even thinking twice. And just awesome. Knowing his kids, since they were really, really little. Cody, Jerry Lynn, they're awesome guy and girl. And I remember seeing Cody when he was jumping on that trampoline, when he was, 7 years old, 8 years old. And then same thing, Jerry Lynn's a couple years older, and knowing his whole family for such a long time. And there's a 35 Mortons, I think.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. There's a lot more than that, I think, because of the numbers that his show got. Let me just say that there's 1 million Mortons because they turned out for his podcast episode. I know that.
Brother Steve's a great guy. I remember Bubba too. He's a good guy, and there's a bunch.
Brandon, Cody, all of them. I mean, all of them. They're great. Yeah, and I know there's 1 million we haven't met, but when it comes down to it, all great people. Yeah. So the very last one on the list is someone you're working with currently as a valet manager, and I'm going to wrap the name game up with Mistress Misery.
Ooh, that's a curveball. I didn't expect that one. Yeah, that's we met at the Evansville Coliseum. So that's another reason why that place is pretty important to me, not just because of the wrestling history and what we did there, but she grew up in a wrestling family. Her mom and stepdad were both wrestlers, and she actually grew up in OVW.
Wow. Okay.
So she was there as a little kid during that time of like 98 to 2001, where that huge class
superheroes.
Yeah, where all those guys came through. She was a little kid, hanging out in the arena, and she knows all those guys, from back then, when she was a little kid.
Yeah.
And then her stepdad would wrestle every now and then at the Coliseum, and I would come from Chicago down there to Jamie's shows, and that's actually how we met, at the Coliseum itself.
Who's her stepdad?
I'm not going to mention his name because he's not worth mentioning.
I got you.
Sorry,
understand.
But, yeah,
fair enough. No, that's fine. I like that's an interesting gimmick, not worth mentioning. I like it. I know several of them. So.
Yeah,
they're like their own little faction.
He's not worth anything, so he's not. And it's a former stepdad too, so it's
gotcha. Understand.
And then we had a long distance relationship, from Louisville to here for 4 months or so, and then just after that long, it's like we really hit it off. And actually, Jamie and that Father Jay guy were actually the two that actually got us together.
Very cool.
So that's another thing I can thank Jamie for. He's one of the guys that kind of talked to her for me, kind of to get us talking together. And after 4 months of her living down there, I told her, hey, I want you to come up here and move in with me, and you're the one I want. So she's been married for it was 10 years in March, and we've been together for 12.
That's awesome. Yeah, very cool. So I want to throw this out there. Now, my brother and I were huge G.I. Joe fans growing up, okay? Mm-hmm. So we loved all the G.I. Joe characters, but probably our favorite part of G.I. Joe, of course, there was Snake Eyes and all that, but we loved the Dreadnoks. From the visual element of you guys, you remind me like you're just a couple Dreadnoks from G.I. Joe. Now, I'm not sure if you're familiar with
I never get into G.I. Joe, so I'd have to look that one up. My favorite was Masters of the Universe He-Man.
Oh, dude. Yeah, that was also our favorite. But when it came down to it, I think we were probably bigger G.I. Joe fans. They were like the punk rock element of Cobra. You understand what Cobra and G.I. Joe are, right?
Yes, so, yes. Yeah, I know what the things are, but I never actually actively watched the show.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I know what they kind of look like and stuff like that. But we do more of a because like I said, I like the heavy metal stuff, but the main faction of metal I like is death metal.
Oh, okay.
Heavy stuff.
Yeah.
That's kind of the way with the spiked gauntlets that I have. A lot of the band, that genre.
Cradle of Filth. Yeah. Did you ever think about doing corpse paint at all?
No, I never painted my face. I've actually never worn a hood either, believe it or not.
Wow. Hey, I mean, when you're as good looking as we are, come on, why hide that bald head, right?
Exactly. If you're bald head and you got a beard, you're set. You don't have to cover it up.
Check and check. Ladies just fall at our feet. We're married. We're both married men, but ladies, don't quit. Just keep your distance, girls. That's all I'm saying.
Can I add one name to the name game?
Of course you can. You have that right.
One guy I don't want to miss out, and he's become a super close friend of mine, and he's on that list of people I think that is too nice to be in the business. And you guys did an interview with him too, and that is Ben Jordan.
Oh, dude, love Ben. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I have become very close with him. We talk a couple of times a week now, and I've known him, for 15 years, from going back and stuff down there, and he is the nicest guy in the world. My wife loves him too. And I remember at the last reunion, she asked if he was going. And that was her deciding factor on if she was going or not. Well, if Ben's not going, I'm not going.
That's amazing.
So she loves him too. And his wife is amazing too, Luana. She's a great girl.
Yeah, great people.
They're just so nice. And, I want to tell these young kids too is that it's, you don't ever have a limit of how long you've been in the business to actually ask opinions or get advice from other people.
Right.
And I always have my door, my phone, anything open. If people want to send me questions for advice or send me matches for whatever to critique, I send my interviews and I send my matches to Ben.
Yeah.
Because I think he actually initiated that. Oh, if you want to send me anything anytime. And I'm like, sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
Somebody who's as good as you are and as long as you've been around. And, I love him as a friend. We've been really good friends for a long time. And it's just of course, you're never too young to get critiqued. You're never too young to ask for advice. And there's nobody, not even, Ric Flair or, anybody that's wrestled for 50 years that knows everything.
Yeah.
There's nobody that knows everything.
Exactly. And what's funny is where I edit and produce all the podcasts that I do, I'm constantly up super late at night. And randomly, just every so often at 1:30 in the morning, I'll get a text from Ben. And I'm like, Brother Ben is still up. He's doing it. He's got my hours. But then he also works early in the morning, I think. So it's like he never sleeps. But
yeah, he texts me every morning at 5 o'clock in the morning. He's like, oh, I hope I didn't wake you up or something like that because he listened to another interview I did. And he's like, oh, it was so exciting. I couldn't wait to tell you. And I'm like, dude, I'm up at 4:30, so you can text me anytime. Though it's not early for me. So
yeah,
I had to give a shout out to him because we've become very close, and I love the guy to death. He's such a good.
And I'm sorry, Ben, for not bringing you on the list, man. I'm so sorry.
That is one dream match that I've always wanted to have that we never got to have. And I'm still trying to convince him. I just did it yesterday. Like, you got one more match in you, don't you? Come on.
Come on.
It'll be a no bump match, I promise. Just come out there. Yeah. I always wanted to have Noise, Booze, and Tattoos against the Wild Boys.
Oh, dude, that's great. I love the Wild Boys. We're going to have both of them on in the future, but when it comes down to it, man, Ben is also similar to the Joey Chi-Chis and Jeremiah Plunkett's, even though his resume is on par with anyone. His match history and legends are just absolutely incredible. But when it comes down to it, he's almost too nice for the business because he's just such a nice guy, man. You know? Yeah.
Yes, he is.
Incredible dude. Well, hey, man, you passed the name game, Scott. So good job.
Right. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
You did throw me a curveball in there, putting the mistress in there. That was. I'll give you credit for that one. I did not expect that one.
Well, we always try to throw one curveball, whether it's question or name. So that
I am so proud to have her, not just as my manager, but as my wife as well, because we get along so good, and that's something I've always wanted to actually be with somebody that is in the business. Yeah, and so she was born into the business, so and she knows how it goes. Yeah, with both of her parents. Her grandfather was a referee. Her great grandma actually funded OVW for a little bit when Danny Davis was having money problems.
That's awesome.
So it's a fourth generation thing.
Wow.
She got it when she was 15 years old, and it's like that's all I've ever wanted was to be with somebody in the business so they know the lifestyle.
Wow.
And that, how important it is, because I don't want to have, somebody that's not, and, somebody try to tell me, oh, you shouldn't do this anymore, or, it's all this and that. But I always wanted it so I could do it with somebody too.
That's awesome.
So wherever she goes, I go, and wherever I go, she goes. So she's my best friend, my manager, my wife. She's everything all rolling in one.
That's brother. That's all you can ask for, man. That's awesome. Yep. Well, we always wrap up the show with one final question from the Plastic Sheik, and I believe we've ranked it as his number 2 favorite question. So go ahead, Sheik, take it over.
So, Scott, tell us, if you can, it's going to be a hard question, but your favorite match you ever had.
Hard question is right. Again, Rick's probably going to kill me for this one. It's really hard to narrow down one. First thing usually I always think of, even though it was so short, was Noise, Booze, and Tattoos against the Rock and Roll Express.
Yeah.
Just being them, and then that building. Definitely that retirement match that he talked to you about with me and him at Wrestle Rage 5, where it was retirement versus hair.
Yeah.
That was just amazingly special, because for him picking me to be the last guy that he wrestled, to end his career out, that was just an unbelievable, amazing honor. You don't care if I give you a couple, do you?
No, man.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead.
Because it's so hard to think of one. I remember it was just a regular match, but it meant a lot to me because it kind of picked off of one of my heroes. Did you ever guys hear a name of a guy named Mitch Ryder?
Yes, of course.
Yeah,
absolutely.
He's since passed away too.
Right.
I know that's crazy. Half the people that we've been in the business with are gone, and that's crazy.
It is.
He used to run a company called XCW in Corydon, Indiana. And we did a bunch of shows there. And I know you mentioned him on one of your shows before. I knew Josephus.
Oh, love him. Yeah.
From doing Evansville shows at the Coliseum. And he came and did a couple shows there. And that's when he was maybe only in like a year and a half, and he was riding around with Dutch. So Dutch was kind of mentoring him a little bit.
Yep. Dutch trained him too. Yeah. Great guy.
When that was like one of the very first times Mistress came out with me. She did another gimmick back then. She wasn't the Mistress yet till she came back here the last couple years ago. But she came out with me that night. We were the opening match, and it was me against Josephus, and then it was going to be Ruff against Too Tough Tony, which was going to be a big schmaz thing, and then it was going to make it, lead into a tag match later on.
Gotcha. Okay.
I've always loved that formula. That's Southern booking at its best. Two
it is.
Matches that go into a tag match. I love that.
Exactly. Yep.
So we were the first match, and he was doing the Brody gimmick at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And man, did he look like Bruiser Brody.
I know, bro.
He had the furry boots. He had the tights, pulled up higher, kind of towards his belly button. He had a big barrel chest on him. His legs were huge, and he had the beard and the hair, and he had everything. And I never seen him put his, I didn't know what he wore to the ring. I thought he had a chain, but I wasn't sure.
He did, yeah.
I went out to the ring first, and then it was like an old schoolhouse building, and there was like a balcony where the locker rooms were at upstairs, where you can actually watch from the match or watch the matches up at the balcony. So me and Mistress were in the ring, and all of a sudden I hear the music start playing, and it's the Immigrant Song by Led Zeppelin.
Mm-hmm.
And I turned and looked at her. I'm like, oh my God. And because that was Brody's song.
Yeah, exactly.
I lifted my arms up, and my arms were my whole body was like goosebumps.
Yeah.
It was just like electrically, my whole body was just charged. And then I see him coming out of the door at the top of the balcony, and he had the furry vest on, and he was swinging the chain.
Mm-hmm.
It was the weirdest. It was almost like an out of body experience, because he did that gimmick so well with the music, the look, that I actually felt like Bruiser Brody himself was coming down, making his entrance. I mean, it was the most amazing thing. And then he came in the ring, and I kind of talked to him before, just make sure you can do everything as much like him as possible. Don't have to worry about me, because, he's one of my favorite guys of all time. So I know how to work against him if I really did. And, whatever I do, don't bump and stuff. And man, he did that gimmick so well. But just getting your body electrified like that when I heard that music, and then to see him come out, it was just like, it made me feel like I was in the ring with him, the guy himself.
That's amazing.
It's an amazing moment.
Yeah, dude,
really?
That's awesome. Yeah, I love that. And Joe Cephas is a great friend and a huge loss to the business. Yes. And I really I'm so glad he got his day in the sun just for a second there. And it's just so heartbreaking. He meant a lot to, to all of us in the Nashville scene. I think it was just such a big loss to lose him, and really so young and so smart and so talented and such promising future, but
yeah, he was one of those guys too that couldn't be nicer. And
exactly.
That's another reason, one of the many reasons why I love Tennessee wrestling, because Tennessee is the land of nice people. I can't think of like anybody in the business that I've ever had a problem with, that anybody isn't, just super nice about everything. Gary Valiant, Boogie Boy, I love him to death too. Super nice guy. Another one of those guys that belongs on that list too. Really love that guy. And I got to get a match with him before he retires too.
Oh yeah, well it's coming up, man.
Me.
Yeah. All right. Well, Scott, thank you so much for coming on the show, man. Really means a lot. We definitely appreciate having you on. Brother, we'll have to get a part 2 in with you in the future. I'm thinking of some kind of committee show, some kind of episode where we can get a bunch of guys together, and we'll get you in, I promise. But
that'd be cool. Yeah, like a roundtable discussion thing.
Yeah,
that would be amazing. Yeah, because I'm definitely consider myself kind of a wrestling historian too. So that would be cool to talk about topics like that. Yeah, I would love that.
Okay, well, we'll book you, man. I promise you'll be back. But Sheik, you got anything before we wrap it up?
Hey, maybe just real quick. I know you mentioned action figures earlier. How about your favorite LJN or your favorite Hasbro?
Ooh, favorite LJN is probably, I have the Roddy Piper on the first series. All of them are on card. And it's actually an error card. It's the correct bubble that he's in, but he's actually on a Jimmy Hart card.
Whoa!
Wow!
It's got the Jimmy Hart poster and the name on the bottom, and then the whole back has the Jimmy Hart, the cutaway bio card.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So yeah, it's an error card. I got it, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years ago on eBay for $66.
Don't let Matt Cardona hear about that one. So
yeah, I've seen errors of later stuff in the series, but I've never seen one that dramatic.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's awesome.
Yeah, man, that's awesome.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much, Scott. You're the best. And, hey, if you're out there and you're able to catch Scott on the indies, definitely do it while you can, because this guy is doing some incredible stuff. Can't put him over enough. Go ahead and give him your socials before we wrap it up, and we will let you go, man.
I'm on Facebook, Ace Scott Spade. I do have Instagram, same thing. 3 T-shirts on there. Anybody can hit me up anytime for that, or come to the shows. Mistress Misery, same thing. She's got a page, a couple T-shirts for her too, and we have a book of pictures and stuff you can buy at the shows. And hopefully, I can make it down to Tennessee one more time before the year's over.
Yeah, man, absolutely. And we'll bring Mistress Misery on next time with you. Okay, that sounds good.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, thanks again, Scott, so much. And, we just appreciate it. And like I said, we'll get you back sometime soon. And thank you so much, and take care. And for the podcast itself, we've appreciated you telling your story, man. So we'll talk to you soon, brother.
God, I absolutely loved it. This is probably the most anticipated podcast for me. I could not wait to do this because I've heard so much about it, and I love listening to you guys. And this has been an absolute pleasure. Really, really good time. So thank you so much for thinking of me to have me on.
I hope we lived up to it, brother.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Well, thanks again, Scott Spade. And we'll be right back to wrap things up with the Plastic Sheik on Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling. Oh, man. Thanks so much, Scott. You're the best, brother.
That was really fun.
Good.
Appreciate it, Scott. Thanks, man.
Really fun.
All right. Well, we'll talk to you soon, buddy, okay?
All right. Awesome. Thank you so much.
This is The Big Picture, Michael Jablonski. Don't forget to tune in every week to Jablonski's Pissed Off on the Mike Jablonski's Pissed Off YouTube channel.
The what's wrong in this sport? He's gonna tell you all about it. He doesn't care what you think. You're gonna hear all about it. Mike Jablonski. He's so pissed off. Mike Jablonski. He's so pissed off. Mike Jablonski. He's so pissed off. He's pissed off.
Hey everyone, this is Shane from Insane Shane's World. I release wrestling figures of enhancement talent, mid-card wrestlers, and wrestlers that you never thought would have a figure available. So if you're interested in adding a really cool and rare figure to your collection, then don't hesitate to contact me at shamtheman73@gmail.com. That's SHAM theman73@gmail.com. You can also join my Facebook group. Just search Insane Shane's World.
Oh, Sheik, Scott was cool. Was he cool or what, man?
Yeah, man, he was definitely cool. It's, he's got so many good stories, and, he's, as big a fan of like Rick and Shane as all of us are. So it's good to hear the things about some of our past guests that he's had interactions with, and, all good stuff, man.
You can tell he loves those guys, man, for sure. So, talking about how much he looked up to both of them as far as in different likes and stuff. And we feel the same way. We look up to both gentlemen as well. So definitely thank y'all for listening to that. We definitely had a fun time with Scott. It's funny, man. We're so used to the Southern accent that it was like at first a little bit, hold up. What's this guy? Where's he from? But he's got a great story to tell. It was great to hear all of his stories, and man, that dude's just super passionate. And I think that's the line that all of our interviews are just so many guys that have been so passionate about the business, man.
Absolutely, man. It's good to see that passion runs true. And, it's good. You sent me a video of his like toy room thing, and you get the Plastic Sheik get a little itchy there. So
I know. I was like,
it's good, man. He's got some on card LJNs and Hasbros and a lot of Masters of the Universe stuff, man. It's good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah, he sent that directly to me. I mean, just now after we talked to him, he sent it to me, and now I had to send it immediately to you before we started recording the last segment. So yeah, lots of beautiful, cool stuff, and just I didn't want to be nosy, but just in your Plastic Sheik world, how much do you think that room is worth?
I'm not real up on what the Masters of the Universe costs, but but still, I'm just gonna say if it's like original Masters of the Universe, I gotta figure they're $75-$100 a pop. I mean, I would guess on card like that, right? If not more for a harder to get one. The LJNs, man. Wow, you don't see hardly any of those. Even the more common ones go for less than like 125 on card. He's had a Vince McMahon on card I saw there. That figure itself can go for $200 in really great condition. That's out of the pack. So on the card like that's hard to tell. And the Hasbros, I would say they're every bit of $100 a pop. I mean, I'd have to look back at the video. I just took a quick glance at it first, so I'd have to look back and see what he had. But what it's got to be, I don't know, 5,000 plus. I mean, I would think.
And again, that's just your quick estimate.
That's the value. I would say. I wouldn't say that that's. I would say he's been a collector for a while. He might have got some better deals than the current market.
Yeah, I can see what you were. What I meant is like, as far as trying to figure out, a specific value, it's hard to tell. But anyway.
Yeah, man, you just never know. You just never know on that. I mean, I'm hoping he got in. I think he's been a collector for a while, so I'm hoping he got in before the toy craze that I somewhat blame on the Major Wrestling Figure podcast. I think that they.
I do too, man. Yeah,
I really think they got collectors back to collecting some of them, and they caused the price to go up. But I mean, yeah, it's good and bad. So.
Yeah, I mean, when does the bubble burst? That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, that's why you gotta know what you have and everything like that. So,
and the only thing I really don't like is how, how they'll have something mint, especially one of them old things that they're not making any more of, and they rip them open.
Dude, Matt Cardona ripped open a mail-away Hulk Hogan Hasbro the other day. I mean, not too long back. Just like in its plastic little bubble, just ripped it open. I'm sure he has another one in the bubble, but still, it's like, ugh.
Yeah, just because he wanted a loose one to display.
He just wanted one for display. Yeah, better display.
So, is that like a method for him to up the value of them? That's like one less on the market.
I mean, maybe, but I don't think that's his necessary ploy with that. I just think that he likes to let them breathe, as he says. So.
Yeah, I agree. He's just at that point, he has enough money. He's not worried about it. And, he wants one to display, and I get it. So, but yeah. Well, man, I think that was a great show. Honestly, I don't really have much more to add. Of course, we've got at GMBMPW on all the social media platforms, and go support us, like us, follow us, all that. Of course, definitely on YouTube. Please do that. I've definitely seen the YouTube numbers gone up. You made a Sheik Shorts for the Wolfie D podcast for Lodi. That's almost near 6,000 views now. So
that's crazy, man.
I know, man. We gotta figure out how to method that madness and keep it going, so yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it's just, I've created ones before that I thought were going to take off that never do anything.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you get like another one that it's like, okay.
They just randomly pop off, man. And then the one that I made with the Ultimate Warrior and Sting in it, that one might not ever be beat, man. I think it's.
I hope it does get beat, but
I do too. Yeah, but 35,000 some. I haven't looked at it in a long time, so I don't know how many it's got now. But it doesn't really matter. Go on YouTube. Go to @GMBMPW. Go to @LiveWolfieD. Go to all these things. Support us. Follow us. We enjoy doing this for you all, and we enjoy making these videos and talking wrestling, man. So I think with that, I'm going to wrap today's show up. You cool with that, Sheik?
Yeah, brother, I'm good, man.
All right. Well, for the Ace Scott Spade, for the Plastic Sheik Jared Street, I'm Jimmy Street. We are Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling. Thank y'all for listening.
Don't forget
the Ace of Spades.
With a tear in my eye. This is the greatest moment in my life.
We'll see you later.
This has been a James Rock Street production.